for this program. So as you can see, the whole community is working and is
Test.
There we go. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting. It looks like we have a full house tonight, so we just want to thank everybody for coming out and being a part of your community this evening. So with that said, I would like to go ahead and call to order our Paramount City Council meeting, September 7th, to order. At this time, we will have our Pledge of Allegiance done by Veronica Martinez of Latinas Art Foundation, and our invocation will be done by Pastor, it says Deborah Jameson, but I think it's Larry Jameson from Lifegate Church this evening. So with that, go ahead, Veronica, we'll get started.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Veronica Martinez. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
If you'd remain standing as we pray tonight, we'd appreciate that. And let's honor our God. We are so thankful to be in a great city. And thank you, Council, for all that you do, and staff. You guys are amazing. I want to pray a blessing over you, our city, and all of our residents here. Lord, we thank you tonight for your goodness, your graciousness upon us. We have seen Paramount grow continually year after year, becoming stronger and doing so many great things in our city. The beauty that's there is coming from the beauty of the hearts of those who lead in this city. And with everybody combined together, the businesses and churches and schools and council, and of course the residents who are so wonderful. Lord, it's a blessing to be in this place. And so we ask your continued blessing upon our city, that you would give us health and strength, that you would empower us with your understanding, your wisdom, so that we can see Paramount continue to be on the rise. Regardless of what others may be doing around us, that you would bless this city in a great way. We are so thankful to be connected with Paramount in so many different ways. And now, Lord, we're just asking and believing for a continuance of your grace upon us all. We ask this in the precious name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Veronica, and thank you, Pastor Jameson. At this time, can I go ahead and get a roll call of council members, please?
Councilmember Aguayo. Councilmember Guillen. Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings.
Here.
Mayor Olmos.
I am here. All right, if I can ask, actually, we need a motion and a second, please, to excuse Councilmember Aguayo and Councilmember Guillen, please.
So moved. Second.
A motion by Cuellar Stallings, second by Lemons. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Thank you, Heidi. Okay, if my colleagues will join me down at the podium for some presentations this evening. Well, hello, everybody. Tonight we have a few public presentations that we need to get through, so bear with us and make sure you have all your good smiles for your picture afterwards. But before we get started, I'd actually like to thank Veronica Martinez for leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. She is a dancer, gorgeous dancer, dressed up tonight from Latinas Art Foundation, and a senior at Paramount High School. You're a pirate. All right, you're up for... The foundation provides entertainment at many of our city events and is a great source of culture education for our community. Veronica, we can ask you to please come up and take a photo with council tonight. We'd be honored. So tonight, for our first presentation, I'd like to invite Dr. Max Martinez to please come up. Everybody knows Dr. Max Martinez. Can I say fight on now? That's a good. Stand right here for me. Great. It's always good to see Dr. Max, and it's my great pleasure to present him this evening with the 4th Mayor's Award of Excellence. I don't want to embarrass you too much, but the good doctor is a kind of legendary in our town. So how many of you guys know Dr. Max? Raise your hand. That's what I'm talking, right. He grew up here, he went to school here, and when it came to opening his dental practice, he made sure that it was located here in Paramount in the 90723. He has built a remarkable career. He's earned 3 dentistry fellowships, which is quite rare. He's a member and board member in a variety of industries, foundations, associations, and other groups. He has received the highest honor given to the graduates of Southern California State Long Beach, the Distinguished Alumni Award. Locally, he has been on the Paramount Chamber of Commerce Executive Board for over 25 years and has been the president for unprecedented 3 separate terms. Dr. Max is a charter member and original board member of the Paramount Education Program, also known as PEP, and has been a real advocate for our students going to college. He is a longtime member of the Paramount Elks Club, doing work that supports students, along with salutating members of our community. He was also named Elk of the Year in 2019. Dr. Max has volunteered at many free dental clinics throughout the area, including those held here in Paramount. He has been remarkably involved in the life of our city and has helped so many people for so many years. He is truly larger than life. I am proud and honored to give him the Mayor's Award of Excellence. Would you like to say a few words, Dr. Max?
Sure, please. You know, I'm never a lack of words, right? First of all, wow, this is incredible. You know, I'm humbled and honored to even be considered as, you know, as a mayor for the Mayor's Award, because I know there's noteworthy people that I'm sure you've given to, and for me to even be in the same sentence, my name in the same sentence, you know, it's just totally incredible, especially being a Paramount boy. You know, listening to all these attributes in this community, you know, it's unbelievable. You wouldn't, if you wrote a story about me, that book would be in the fiction section of the library, not, you know, because people wouldn't believe it. But yeah, it started, you know, 35 years ago, even though I grew up here. As you said, I'm a pirate, okay? Always a pirate, right? So, you know, 35 years ago when I came back, you know, I was welcomed with open arms. But this award, there's many pieces to that, and a lot of you out there are, you know, belong. You know, peace belongs to them, to this. I mean, all these things that I've done, it's because of, you know, all of you. Council member Lemons, you remember when we first started, and you didn't know what to do with me, you know, the first couple of years, but you had a vision of the city working together with the school district, with the, you know, the business community, and so, you know, you took it on, and I was there in those first 2 years. God, that was hell. But look at it now. You know, it's just superb. You know, Mayor Almo, you know, became a board member of the chamber. You brought that business community, and again, the cohesiveness, you made it stronger. You know, it's great. You know, and Vilma, what can I say about you? You're part of my family. I mean, you know, my mom loved you. You know, you've always been there for me. So, you know, and from there on, you know, education. You said the PEP program. You know, you put me on the original board of the PEP. You know, and yeah, I had these dreams and visions that I thought, okay, they're dreams and visions, but we surpassed those dreams and visions. You know, we have 2 learning centers. One of them houses not only the young minds, but also the adults. And also, who would have believed that within 13, 14 years, we surpassed $1 million in scholarships to Paramount graduates. That's incredible coming from a small community, and most of that money came from Paramount businesses and Paramount residents. So just my tribute to this entire city. But anyway, I'm here to thank everybody. My staff is over there. They decided to be, you know, my team. And believe me, they have to be thanked because, you know, doing all these things, they got to get me out the door. They go, oh no, Dr. Max has another meeting. They're putting a coat on me. They're calling me the night before. You got to get a coat on. So, you know, it's a burden on them just as much as anybody else. And of course, my family, my wife, my kids. I have my daughter, actually 2 daughters, essentially Crystal and Holly, and my son Max, and my daughter-in-law Megan, and one of my grandchildren is here, and then my sister and brother-in-law. They're all supportive. There's been many times that you know, I came home late, but they were supportive. They wait for me for dinner, and it's just incredible. And so I just can't thank them enough. And Paramount can't be too bad, because here, my son didn't really do a lot here in Paramount, but he married a Paramount girl. Can you believe that? It's a Paramount girl. But here, you know, Paramount's always been in my heart. You know, my dad and mom lived to their very last day here in this community, and they worked hard, and they love this community. And fortunately, I lost my mom, you know, this year, but they were here, and, you know, all the attributes that you talked about, you know, they're the reason why I'm here, and they're looking down. I'm sure they're glowing. But, you know, Paramount has always been my community. You know that. But, you know, it just goes back to what everybody always says. You can take the boy out of the Paramount, but you can't take the Paramount out of the boy, and this is a good example. So thank you. and I'm totally honored. Thank you, especially coming from you, the mayor. Yes.
So this month is actually National Hispanic Heritage Month. Every year from September 15th to October 15th, Americans celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month. This is a time to celebrate the history, the heritage, and the contributions made by the ancestors of Americans who came from Mexico, Spain, the Caribbean, and South and Central America. Tonight, we are proclaiming this special month in Paramount and honoring the cultural legacy of many in our community. Joining us to accept the city's proclamation are Danielle Perez of the previously mentioned Latinas Art Foundation and Frank Barraza of the Paramount Tepec Sister City organization. Would each of you like to come up and accept these proclamations? Would each of you guys like to say a few words about your organizations and how it relates to our culture here in Paramount?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ana Leon, and I'm with the Latinas Art Foundation. Our goals are to empower and focus on the education and the exposure of the Latino culture in our community, especially focusing on the past, our history, and the present and the future that we bring into our culture, our values, our beliefs, and how it expresses in our youth and how it can continue into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. On behalf of Paramount Tepec, we as well put on 2 cultural events, Dia de Nino and Dia de los Muertos, and we always welcome the community to come out and support. Thank you.
And just speaking, you guys, if you're ever in our community and they are having their events, please come out and attend. They're such beautiful events, and it does show a lot about Paramount and their culture, and you see beautiful women dressed like this, and Danielle will let you guys dance a little bit too. You could try those on. So actually, our next presentation is National Preparedness Month, which is also in the month of September. This is designed to educate the public on the importance of disaster preparation and promote family and community emergency planning. The theme this year is Prepare to Protect. Preparing for disasters is protecting everyone you love. Here are some ideas on how to fulfill the goals of the theme from the website ready.gov. Talk to your friends and family about how you would communicate before, during, and after a disaster. Build a kit by gathering supplies that will last for several days for everyone living in your home. Know the risk of disasters in your area and learn how to make your home stronger in the face of common hazards. Check your insurance coverage to make sure it's up to date. And talk to your kids about preparing for emergencies and what to do in case you are separated. Government agencies like FEMA and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention have lots of information about emergency planning on their websites. Whenever we promote this month, we'd like to recognize the Red Cross and the great work that they do. Our city has partnered closely with the local Red Cross chapter over the years, and we encourage our residents to visit their website for tips on how to prepare. Joining us tonight are the local Red Cross chapter's board chair, Braden Phillips, and chapter executive director, Veronica Garcia. And they're not here. Okay. So anyways, we will go ahead and give them a round of applause for them partnering with the city when it comes to Red Cross. Thank you, Dave. Next, it sounds like we have some champions in the house. So I think we have some PYSO champions in the house. If I can have our PYSO team come on up. Wow, very nicely dressed for their award. Great job, you guys. Just stand on the sides here. So Paramount has a history of excellence on the soccer field. I think everyone can recall the multiple state championships won by the Paramount High School boys team a few years ago as well. Tonight we welcome the latest in line of victorious young athletes from our city, this time from the Paramount Youth Soccer Organization. The boys team from the Youngers Division recently became champs of the 2021 Cal South State Cup. The tournament opened with 32 teams, and the boys battled all the way through to take the cup. We are proud of them and celebrate their achievements this evening. Please welcome the 3 team captains. We have, all right. We have Andres Alvarez, who goes to Our Lady of the Rosary. We have Lucas Bautista, who goes to Olander Middle School. This is Lucas. And then we have Jonathan Manji, also attending Our Lady of the Rosary. So you guys, these are the PYSO champs. So give them a round of applause, please. Oh, come on.
Hello. Thank you, and yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty hard, you know, but we wanted it, and we won. Yeah.
Also tonight, we're actually going to be recognizing our summer concert and back-to-school sponsors. We recently had some summer events that could have not been occurred without some very generous sponsors, members of the community who are truly committed to Paramount. Tonight, we want to thank them personally. If you could please come up when I say your name, and please stand with our council members. We again were able to host a series of free concerts in Progress Park with a variety of musical styles. For their financial support of the concerts, we'd like to thank Los Angeles County Supervisor Janice Hahn, represented by Linda Johnson, Assemblymember Anthony Rendens, represented by Adrian Landa, Downey Federal Credit Union, represented by Jaslyn Acibal. So we're going to just do the summer concerts, I'm assuming, right now? That's fine, we'll just do these 3 first. Or do you want to do everybody together? Okay. In conjunction with the Los Cerritos YMCA, we also held our first ever back-to-school event, which was actually, me and Peggy, I think all 3 of us were there, and it was well turned out. I mean, there were so many people, and We're just so thankful for all these people that helped us out today with that Saturday. So nearly 400 students ages 5 to 14 were given backpacks, school supplies, sweaters, and shoes. And also about 60 kids got free haircuts. Would Jeremy Eknaz, Senior Executive Director of the YMCA, please come up? Okay. So for helping our children with financial donations, we would also like to thank, again, Supervisor Hahn, Smoke and Fire Social Eatery, Cindy's Jumpers, for supplying the sweaters to our children, Inkhead Prints, the Sauce Creative Services, for providing food and water for the event. We have Domino's Pizza, owned by Tony Manos and represented by Alfredo Vasquez and Richard Sheong. Northgate Markets, represented by Eduardo Castrejón. And Georgie Zavala, who actually was able to donate some Frito-Lay chips that day. So thank you, George. I know he couldn't make it tonight. And to our special hairstylist that had lines of kids, and you guys just rocked it. I stood there the whole time, and you guys just did a phenomenal job. So special thanks to our hairstylist, Alicia Anderson. Tina Lefebvre Saleh, am I close? And Denise Hernandez, if you could please come up. So again, we appreciate all of your help, you guys, all of your big hearts for making our community events so successful, because we truly, truly could not do it without any of you. So from the bottom of my heart, from our staff and our colleagues, we thank you, and thank you for being a part of our community. We appreciate you.
One for each group, and then one for the individual hairdresser.
Okay.
Yes, Chris. Frank, come on up. Okay, if you're tall, in the back. Now let's get council up here in the first, Brenda in the middle, 2 council members on each side, 1 on each side. Okay, no, there's no dealing with that. Okay, so. Do that little thing where you turn to an angle. There you go. Model it. You got to put them. All right. On 2, 1 and 2. And one more for you. 1 and 2.
As I say, it takes a village, right? Absolutely. So tonight, we actually have some retirees that we're going to be saying goodbye to. Tonight, we are saying farewell to a pair of longtime employees who have retired from the city, which is our finance director, Karina Lan, and parking controls officer, Sean O'Brien. Karina joined the city as an accountant in 1998 before moving up the ladder to assistant director, and in 2006 became director. Our finance department has a reputation for fiscal responsibility and transparency. Under Karina's leadership, the public's money has been managed carefully and conservatively with balanced budgets and healthy reserves. During her watch, the city has received awards for financial reporting every year. Our customer service section, also part of finance, has also made City Hall's front counter welcoming and attentive. Karina was also devoted to the needs of her staff, especially when it comes to food. You would be hard-pressed to find a better fed department in the city. Where's Karina? We are going to miss her expertise and supportiveness very much. So at this time, if we can give a round of applause to Karina for her dedication to our city. Next, we'd like to talk about Sean. Sean also started with the city in 1998 as a code enforcement officer. In 2008, he became the parking enforcement officer. Sean followed the street sweeper on a daily basis for approximately 14 years, traveling countless miles performing the valuable job of helping to keep our streets clean. He had the difficult task of enforcing vehicle violations. On many occasions, though, he assisted owners who had every intention to comply, but maybe had mechanical problems with their vehicle. He truly understood both the spirit and the letter of the law. He knew the street sweeping schedule so well, he would provide directions to any substitute street sweeper driver. Thank you, Sean, for all of your years of service here at the City of Paramount. Since Karina and Sean have been with the city for more than 20 years, they've received a personalized Paramount street sign, a certificate, a commemorative city plaque, and a thank you card signed by myself and City Council. We wish them both all the best in their retirements. So on behalf of myself and my colleagues, we'd like to thank everyone who joined us tonight. You fill us with Paramount pride. I think from in and out, like I said, it takes a village to do what we do here in this city. So again, thank you so much. But we're going to be going to finish tonight's presentations with a short video reviewing our recent Heritage Festival, from setting it up to breaking it down. It was a lot of fun, as was the event. The video will play once my colleagues and I take our seats. We hope you enjoy it. Thank you everyone for coming tonight.
What's your sign? It's like we're twin flames in a different life. Deep connection lights a spark. It's like you know me in the depths of my heart. We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We live it like this could be our final day. We're dreamers. Don't care what the others say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive in the nighttime. It's something about how we dance in the moonlight. That look in your eyes, it tells me that you want me and all my loving. We come alive in the nighttime. You and I, we come alive. We come alive. We come alive.
This event celebrates our vintage past, our vibrant present, and our bright, bright future. We hope you're enjoying yourselves and getting a strong sense of what Paramount Pride is. That was a great video, you guys. Again, that showed a sense of our Paramount pride. And if you guys missed it this year, I hope to see you out there next year. And we'll make sure we get those dates out to you so you could save the date and join us. All right. With that, we'll move on.
Presentations are done.
That's right. So now, John, we'll move on to City Council public comment updates, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do not have any public comment updates from the last council meeting. However, I do, if you're okay with this, Mayor, would like to bring up the lieutenant to discuss an issue that's been popping up in our community once again. I know the City Council had really passionately wanted to address the issue of street racing and doing donuts on intersections. We've been getting some complaints, a lot of calls in public safety about that. I'm sure you've got them at home as well. Right. So with that, I'd like to have Lieutenant Omar Camacho come up to the podium to discuss what the Sheriff's Department's been doing about that, since this is a really hot topic.
Thank you, John.
Lieutenant Camacho.
Madam Mayor, City Council, everybody, good evening. I wanted to discuss street racing. The city of Paramount has seen an increase in street racing gatherings within the last month. This has been a regional trend and has now become a state issue. Unfortunately, it's affected our city and surrounding areas significantly. I've heard the resident complaints and their frustrations. I actually see some familiar faces here as well. I've spoken to a couple people in the audience, either via phone or in person. I've explained and will continue to emphasize our commitment to combating this nuisance and crime. The main complaint we've received is that deputy sheriffs will show up to these calls for service and do not arrest anybody. That's not the case. I want to clarify that and talk specifically on some of our what goes on. Our tactics and our strategy and plan of action will vary depending on the circumstances. These vehicles don't always stay in the same area where the call is placed, and we adapt depending on volume of these vehicles. Our detentions also will not occur directly in front of these areas. They're occurring as well. We have to factor in a lot of things, specifically protection of life and property. I want to share some, just specifically this weekend, on Friday, we had an arrest of reckless driving. We towed a vehicle for 30 days. There was a nuisance vehicle cited for illegal street racing activity. On 9/5 Sunday, there was another arrest, a cite out for exhibition of speed, a 30-day vehicle impound as well. Monday, there was a call for service on Downey and Somerset that many residents also had posted on a social media post. And let me start with stating social media doesn't always have accurate information, as we all know. It is a good communication platform, but at times has false and misleading information. During that incident, regarding that incident, there was actually a vehicle that was towed for 30 days, and a suspect was arrested for being a spectator in the street race. During that investigation, there was also a firearm recovered. I also want to share some vandalism, exhibition of speed, and speed contest cases that are currently being through the courts. I won't say specific names or defendants, but I will state that there has been some filings regarding felony vandalism for donuts in the intersections. There's one that has been reduced to a $1,000 payment to the city for restitution. I have 5 other similar cases for felony convictions for vandalism, where the damage was done to intersections to the city and for the defendants doing speed and exhibition and the donuts. There's also misdemeanor cases still that have been dismissed when the defendant does 80 hours of community service and pays restitution over $3,000 to the city. These are all, I can name 5, 6, 7 of these cases. I do have them here presently, but I do want you to know that there has been enforcement within the last 4 months, specifically these last couple months where this has been more of a nuisance than an issue, unfortunately. From the last 4 to 5 months, we have impounded 34 cars in the city of Paramount, all of them for reckless driving, exhibition of speed. Each of these cars has been held for 30 days, and we have not released any of these vehicles. We will continue to deploy extra personnel to respond specifically to these street racer calls for service. We are going to have zero tolerance on this activity. I am working with surrounding agencies also to combat this issue. We used to have a street racers task force, if you guys recall. We are not part of that task force anymore, but we will start deploying a specific Paramount task force where we will have more deputies out there specifically just for street racing. I do want to have a message to these lawbreakers. If they are going to engage in street racing, reckless driving, or any vehicle nuisance activity in the city of Paramount, they will risk being arrested for felony vandalism, having their vehicle impounded, and possibly losing their vehicle through forfeiture proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. And I know this is probably not a conversation, maybe we could do this later, but I think we need a message to the residents to let them know that we are aware. I know we all received calls this weekend, texts, whether it be on social media or not, we heard it, you know, and I think we all went through the process of doing what we were told. Call 911, report it, and that's what we're doing. So the message to the residents, again, is don't get discouraged. Please still call. Let's go through the process, get the 911 call in, you know, because we talk about trends and data to figure out timing, dates. That way we can help the Sheriff's Department identify when our points are, because lately we know it was weekends. Now we know it was a Monday afternoon. So it's various times and dates. But please, again, call 911. You still can report it. Help us at those times, like I said, and don't get frustrated. Call. We're all doing it. We're all taking, you know, the time to call as well, because it's important to us. So, Lieutenant, thank you for the report, and know that we're here, I think, even as a city, to figure out how do we combat this together. You know, I think we have our ordinance that we passed, you know, that we're able to confiscate these cars. And so, again, I think sometimes, you know, we just have to, like, figure out the game plan to know that, again, letting the residents know that we have something in place. We just have to make sure that, again, you said you're going to get a Paramount task force together to start. I'd like to know when that's going to start.
Well, ma'am, and and sorry to
No, go
interrupt,
ahead.
but absolutely, just on that, though, we already have deputies out there in place.
Okay.
We have deputies out there now. We do know that this is obviously occurring at specific hours. Well, actually, I can't say specific hours,
Sure.
but later in the evenings. It used to be an issue that was more on the weekends, and now it's happened during the weekdays as well. I do have the calls for service, and there has been more calls for service the last couple months in July and August.
Okay.
And for that, I do also thank the public for calling. They should continue calling, and we will continue to respond to these calls. I just wanted to make it clear that if the perception is that we are not responding to these calls or not getting there at a certain time, a lot of this enforcement doesn't generally occur within that immediate area. So that's what I want to emphasize. A lot of this enforcement specifically, and I'll use again this weekend because I'm looking at the location of occurrence and where the arrest took place. They're happening a couple miles down and sometimes even in another city, but it's all related to the same incident. So there is enforcement being made, and we are responding to these calls.
Thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Adriana wanted to add one more thing.
Sure, sure.
Yes, thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. The lieutenant discussed the law enforcement aspect of it. As the mayor mentioned, we do have an ordinance in place. And today we held 2 administrative hearings, and we have 1 pending. So what I do is once we get the report and it's approved by John Kavanaugh's office, we move forward with the hearing. The report has to contain certain factors for us to move forward. Once we do, we hold the administrative hearing depending on what the hearing officer says. Then we move forward with forwarding that case over to our city attorney. And then that's when he comes into place. And we have been successful in 1 case where, like I said, where we have 3 pending at this point in terms of moving forward with the administrative part of it. And if I could answer any questions, I'll be more than happy to.
So the point being, Madam Mayor and Council, is the process is working.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be as apparent to residents who are calling in, as the lieutenant obviously said, could happen in the intersection. You call in, they take off. they don't know the residents don't know what happens afterwards.
Mhm.
In 2 or 3 cases that he just mentioned, the person was caught.
Yes.
And arrested. And then it goes through the hearing that Adriana just covered. So we just wanted to make that clear.
No, absolutely. And I think that's important, John. That's important to let know the after effect. Maybe that's what we don't hear.
Sure.
But thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. Thank you, Adriana and Lieutenant.
You're welcome.
All right. So we will move on to public comments.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we have 4 public comment cards. Our first speaker is Mr. Abel Jacobo. He'd like to address the council. Mr. Jacobo?
Good evening, Honorable City Council. Based on the last few meetings we've had in the past, but there's a couple of concerns that have not been addressed to me at all. The encroachment of my property, which I stated, still out there. And the other one, basically, we're meeting with Andrew back in July 15th, if I recall, and John. During the July 6th meeting, they stated that the driveway apron was going to be 60 feet. It turns out to be less than that. So it wasn't further away from my property, it's closer to my property. So those 2 things have not been addressed at all. You might address the trash can enclosure, but the main concern is the driveway, which I want out, and the encroachment of my property. So those are the 2 main concerns that I have based on what we've discussed in the past.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Jacobo. So do we have a follow-up, Andrew, with him, or where are we at?
This is actually the first I've heard of that development with the driveway being closer, so I'll take a look into it.
Okay.
I'll be happy to talk with Mr. Jacobo afterwards, unless Planning Director John Carver has any update.
Yeah, the distance is news to me. We are working with the applicant to do an exit-only driveway. He has his architect working on that. And regarding the property lines, they're also doing a survey so that we have a legal description to give that shows where the property lines are located.
It's not the first time you heard about the driveway being 60 feet away, because I have you in the past recordings. You stated 60 feet.
Oh, okay. Well,
It's recorded, so for the record, I want to make sure.
Okay, so
Now, it turns out when we had our meeting, it's 48 feet. And you basically from that meeting, you stated that it was away from my driveway, starting from the driveway, and then during the meeting, you stated from my building. So what is it now?
Oh, I missed.
Okay, hold on, Mr. Jacobo. So what we'll do, so can we set up, again, a follow-up meeting to make sure that everybody's on the same page? So Andrew and John, can we sit down and make sure we can answer some of those questions and figure out what's going on with the driveway?
Sure, we'll be happy to call Mr. Jacobo later this week.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jacobo.
Our next speaker, Madam Mayor, is Ms. Abigail Torres.
Good evening. Once again, I probably sound like a broken record, patrolling. I don't see patrolling out there. My son-in-law's car was just stolen Saturday night. And it's funny that you mentioned that we shouldn't get discouraged or frustrated, but actually that's where I'm at this point. I really hesitate to call. So I don't know, last time I believe John Moreno said that Lieutenant Camacho had told me that they have priorities. I know they do. I know you guys do. But by the time that I call, it's always 30 to 45 minutes. Because I wait, I wait and to see if they're going to move. People are blocking my driveway, and this actually happened on Saturday, and they were there for hours, and I was frustrated, and I was just like, well, what am I going to do? I had to leave, and I came back around 11:30. Cars were still there. By this time, the station here is closed, so it goes to Lakewood. They take much longer. So I don't know what time I should wait to give a call, because I know there's other priorities, but I can't. Just right now, I couldn't get out of my driveway because there's people parked on the street.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I understand.
I don't know what to do. And
Again-
Adriana, I've always called, thank you when you guys go, but I mean, this time they stole the vehicle. I mean, I don't know what to do. There's a lot of people there that I don't even know. I don't know. You guys tell me, when do I need to call so that somebody can go out there? I know that it's not an emergency, but I mean, how long do I have to wait for somebody to go out there so that they can move these people? It's about 3 or 4 cars all the time.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah, go ahead.
You
I
seem
don't know
to be
what to do.
familiar with the issue.
Yes.
I'm not. Is this about a blocked driveway?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And I would just ask, because it sounds like you have been responding, can
Yes.
you give us any information on that, Adriana?
Yes, like she mentioned, we've spoken several times. Usually after we close the station, it does go right. I shouldn't say usually. What happens, it goes to Lakewood
Goes to-
Station. At that point, our non-sworn staff is no longer logged in, so they don't respond to any calls, and it goes to the Lakewood Station, and based on the calls and activities that are occurring at that time, a blocked vehicle or a parking call may be at a lower level response time. And I don't know, Lieutenant, if you want to
Well, the
elaborate
thing
on
is that not too long ago, there was a flyer, and I didn't bring it because I just came from work and I wasn't prepared, but it said no blocking driveways, no parallel parking, and so I don't know how that's going to go in effect if nobody patrols and they see this. Because I'm pretty sure if you go through there, that somebody would patrol there, they would see that. But I mean, I know there's, and I've always said it to you, I know there's emergencies, and I hate calling for that. But I need to get out, and I can't get, I mean, even to get out that Saturday. I left at 6:30, came back at 11:30, we're still there. My husband says, are you going to call? And I said, no, it goes to the Lakewood, it's going to be worse. I'll just,
Is it always the same people, or is it different people all the time?
yeah, it's the same pretty much, but this Saturday was just cars that I didn't even recognize, so. But that's how I felt, like you said, frustrated and just, should I call, should I not call?
Hey, so Adriana, I have if it's the neighbors, like I said, you know it's one same person, or maybe it's people in your
It's
neighborhood.
the neighbors, but this Saturday in particular, there was people. If they have a gathering, that's fine. But
Absolutely.
I mean, I had to get out, and I hate to go out, and I've had in the past, but I'm just worried about the retaliation. And look at that, they stole the car. But I mean,
So
what are you
can I
gonna
make a
do?
suggestion? Maybe, Adriana, have we had like a neighborhood community meeting where we can explain to the residents the parking violations and what the do's and the don'ts?
I don't think we've had one in recent months. I know that obviously in 2020 we didn't hold any neighborhood watch meetings, but that's something that we could do. And in reference to the letters that she's stating, we did send it out to the whole community, asking them to park correctly. And in terms of our CSOs, they go out there. But like I said, once it gets a little bit later, then the parking is not being actively enforced in our city. It's based on complaints. However, what we could do, depending on where we are, we can start our after-hours enforcement again. We had put that on hold just because of COVID and people wanting a break and so forth, but we can definitely see if that's an option again.
Right.
And that would mean that we keep our CSOs later in the day.
Right.
Well, a lot
in
of
the
times
evening.
it's not really late. It's actually during the day. Right now, before coming here, if they were right, we couldn't even get out. And it was
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
so I came in his car because I was like, okay, well.
And
Thank you,
during
Mrs.
this
Torres.
time,
I
it
think
should not
there's
be an
two
issue.
initiatives, Adriana, that maybe we can look into maybe some
Absolutely.
education, and maybe we'll talk about CSO.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could, you asked a specific question, which is, how long am I supposed to wait?
Wait, because I wait,
You can't get out of your driveway. I would call every 30 minutes. Every 30, to put it on the record, because there is no way that you should be blocked into your home, and that is considered the lowest level. And there's no reason that a deputy shouldn't respond within 30 minutes then. So you're asking me and what I would expect, travel time. I can't leave my home. Get somebody out here.
I've done that in the past.
So
I
don't
wrote
think
how long, what
that's
time I
unreasonable,
called, what time
Adriana.
they
Would you
went out.
agree?
Lieutenant, if you'd like to come up and answer that question, because I could definitely answer it during the time that our station is open. You're absolutely right. 30 minutes is more than reasonable for one of our CSOs to
Yeah, and
to
I
respond.
would think it's more than reasonable for the sheriff's department too.
Oh, sorry about that.
Ma'am, I agree with you. 30 minutes is more than a reasonable amount of time. If in fact she's talking about this past Saturday, what she's talking about the weekend, there's other things that do factor in. So I can't. Any other time, I will say, and I was here this weekend, so I know for a fact it was extremely busy in our city. But if it's an ongoing issue, we could actually meet as well. You're more than welcome anytime to come to my office. We could also discuss that specific individual or that residence that's causing this nuisance for you. And I could have our special assignment team deal with it directly as well, ma'am. As far as prior interactions, or like Ms. Lopez already stated, our deployment, whether the Paramount substation is, sorry, I'll try to speak to everybody at one time. Whether the substation is closed at a certain time, it doesn't matter if you're calling Lakewood Station. Deputies are assigned and are based out of the Paramount substation. So the call's going and it's being generated and it's going to Lakewood, but it's being dispatched to deputies that are already in the city of Paramount. So that's a common myth that people don't understand. They think the deputies are responding from Lakewood to the city of Paramount. The deputies are already in the city of Paramount. And if we could talk after this as well, ma'am, and we could share some information, and hopefully we get to.
I think that's really important, because if that's ongoing, you need a resolution. You should not be trapped in your home.
I agree.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Madam Mayor, if I could add something? In regards to the car being stolen, it is something that we're looking at. We are seeing an increase of GTAs. That's where we really encourage people to try to secure their vehicles, whether it's with the club. I know that we were giving out clubs, if you could park it in your driveway and secure it. It is something that's occurring not only in Paramount, but it's a problem in surrounding cities as well. So we are trying to address that issue and get ahead of it. However, our numbers do continue to go up, and our special assignment officers are looking at that as well.
Thank you for the update, Adriana.
So, Madam Mayor, just one final thing. So I would encourage Ms. Torres to set up a meeting with the lieutenant, and the lieutenant will be able to help her out. So please do that. That would be very helpful to you. So, okay, our next speaker, Madam Mayor, is Mr. Alejandro Llanes. Mr. Llanes?
One of the longest ones I've ever been to these meetings. Good afternoon.
Hello.
My time started. So I saw the Heritage Festival. You know, I was there, and I went to that festival. I sat in the middle of Paramount Park, Paramount Boulevard, and I had 5 beers in public, right down the street. I bring that up was because that was one of the reasons why they tore down the handball courts, was drinking in public, right? People were drinking beers, so that was one reason that the city used, that you used to tear down our courts, right? Which they never caught me drinking or smoking or anything against the law. But one thing that stuck out at the Heritage Parade was your assistant. She found me out. A staff member from the city of Paramount found me out. And she came to me and she said, "Alex, they're never going to build your handball courts." And I said, "Oh, really? How is it that you know that?" She's like, I'm telling you for a fact, they're never going to build your handball courts. I go, "Oh, really?" I go, "Did your boss put you up to this? Did your boss put you up to come tell me that?"
Weird. Address me,
because
please.
I didn't know anything about that. She said, "Well, you know, I'm the one they catcalled." I go, "Oh, they catcalled you, really?" I said, "I didn't know anything about that." I go, "Did I ever catcall you?" "No, but you didn't have to be there." I'll say, "So wait a minute. Because one person catcalled you, we don't know who it was. You removed our recreational sport from one person?" I said, "Wait a minute, what does this person do?" "Oh, she works for the Senior Citizen Committee." "Oh, really?" I said, "So you have input. So if the city supports the senior citizens," and that's what she mentioned, "what do I have against senior citizens? I don't have a damn thing against senior citizens. I have a 93-year-old father and an 80-year-old mother. I don't have one thing against senior citizens. I support everything the city has done for this senior citizen community. I have 100%. I've supported a lot of things that you people have done. What I don't support is discrimination and racism, because that's what this has done. You know, you talk about community and building community. There wasn't nobody in that Heritage Festival, most of it was staff. Look at it again. Most of it is staff. It's staff. And another slogan that you guys brought up, now that you're looking at us, is that you brought up make it here, spend it here, so it'll go back to your community. Well, we should do that with staff. We should hire people in our community to run our community. That way we could have a good explanation, a good representation of our community in recreation. How many times have you given out awards for 18-year-olds around here? Any other committee that you've ever had, have you ever given out 18 to 20, 25, 30? Have any other age group ever been given an award, a mayor's award, any type of award? You leave out that age group. That age group is left out entirely. I keep pushing for handball because it's the one thing that Mexicans in this community play. And on Mexican Heritage Month, viva México, porque eso es lo que queremos jugar. Pongan para atrás nuestro deporte, no sean racistas.
Thank you, Mr. Yanes, for your comments tonight.
Our next speaker, Madam Mayor, is Ms. Tonia Del Carmen. Ms. Del Carmen?
Hello, good evening. I'm actually one of the people that emailed Lieutenant regarding the racing and the non-stop, constantly every weekend. On Friday afternoon on Jefferson in Colorado, they literally blocked every driveway, every street. We couldn't even get out of our house. And they started like around 10. Luckily, they came out. They got rid of them quickly. Everybody was scattering. But on Saturday, they were back again. They're using Vermont and Colorado Street every weekend. It's penetrating. The smell of the smoke in the river is beyond disgusting. We couldn't even walk on that street because on the following day, the smell was penetrating. It's nonstop. We can't sleep. My kids cannot sleep. They're about to, sometimes they burn out so fast that they're even almost crashing into our house. We just don't know what else to do. I know on Madison and California, you guys put on blocks for the crossing. Can you guys do the same from Paramount to Garfield? Because those streets are wide enough for them to do their mess. And I just don't know what else to do with that situation. We're tired of calling. We're tired of literally everything. And it's every day now. Every day. They might not all gathered, but it's like people even from the own community. We've been living in that house for 20 years. This is the first time this has ever happened. Every weekend, every day, nonstop. It's like I haven't slept at all. Yeah, it's like the kids cannot even sleep and they have to go to school the next day.
No, understood.
And can you guys do something? It's
Absolutely.
Just unbearable.
Well, thank you for coming up and speaking. I know it's not easy to come and speak, but again, I think it was important that we all heard today from the lieutenant. We're all concerned. So we hear you. We really do. So again, we're going to be working with staff to figure out how we can, like I said, I hear it as well. So I'm not too far from you. So again, like I said, we're going to really work on this to determine how we can try to make it better for you. But again, thank you for coming.
It's scary to live
Absolutely.
in the corner and they're just burning out right there in your house. My daughter has asthma and it penetrates the house. And it's a smell that it doesn't go away real quick.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Do you know who the people are, or they just come from anywhere?
We already reported it to the certain people that are there that actually do it on a daily basis. The people that actually gathered over the weekends, I heard from my niece that it's actually on Instagram. They actually post out the locations. And then when everybody gathers, they throw fireworks up in the sky. I'm going to try my best to get the Instagram page. I'm going to try to get it from my niece, and I promised the lieutenant I'll get it for him. But it's every weekend now. Right. Every day.
Yep.
So,
and then, John, is Vermont the street that we're doing the project on for helping with the racing?
We're doing it Vermont south of Alondra, where Ms. Del Carmen's talking about is north of Alondra, almost to Jefferson.
Right.
It is on Jefferson.
Yeah, Jefferson.
Vermont and Jefferson.
So that's
It's
further
literally that
up
cross.
north.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, further north than the project that we're doing.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I say something?
Absolutely, please.
If I could just reiterate that we do need people to call. It's very important. I know that it's frustrating, and deputies on some occasions will get there right on time, and sometimes they won't get there until the activity's over. But that really helps us out because we sit down with the lieutenant, my assistant and I sit down with the lieutenant every week and look at the calls for service and try to figure out a pattern. And so
I've been calling nonstop, even during the week.
I really appreciate it, and please continue to call because it'll give us the location, the time. As the mayor mentioned, it was on weekends and it goes to weekdays, and so we're always constantly trying to get ahead of it, and we need that information, we need that data to try to catch these guys and put people on the right spots.
It's just annoying.
No, I'm sorry, I do understand.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to speak. The same, I received several calls from residents telling me that they could smell the rubber from a distance, and also that there was fireworks going off, and they didn't know which direction, and their children were very frightened. So I try to encourage them to call, and I even told them if you don't get a response within 30 to 40 minutes, give a call back. But there's only, I can call for you, but then you need to take the initiative and also call. So because that way they have data of how many residents are calling in. And then, hopefully those matters will be taken care of in a timely manner. So I really encourage our residents to please call. Anytime you have any type of situation, please call. Thank you.
I do have a question for Lieutenant Adriana because when you call, at times you don't know exactly where it's happening, but you can hear it.
Yes.
So when you call in and the dispatcher says, where is it happening? I'm just saying, hey, City of Paramount, I hear it, maybe coming from Paramount or Alondra. What do you suggest that we say? Just City of Paramount, and it's.
I would suggest then, Lieutenant, correct me if I'm wrong, just the general vicinity.
Okay.
So if you're calling and you're saying Alondra and Downey, then that's where they will be deployed. And like the lieutenant mentioned earlier, sometimes they don't catch them right at the location. They catch them in the act either, because they don't do it once. They burn rubber, they take off, and then they do the donut somewhere else.
Right.
So it's different intersections, and they can catch them, like he mentioned. Sometimes it's a mile down, sometimes it's 2 miles down.
I think what they do is they get together, and then when the cops come, then they take off through different avenues and streets, and then they start up somewhere else. Because you hear it, like a second one.
Yes.
They'll do a big one, and then it kind of starts off smaller.
Exactly.
So, I
So,
mean,
just
they're
the
drifting.
general vicinity would.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Adriana. Okay. Any more public comments?
No, ma'am.
All right. Again, thank you guys for coming out. We do appreciate you voicing your concerns. All right, you guys, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. I'll go ahead and take a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Madam Mayor, I'll second it, but I need to abstain on the minutes. I wasn't present at the meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion, I guess, by Lemons, and it'll be, motion by Quare Stallings, and it has to be, I guess, second by me, right? Okay, so I'll second. So we have a motion by Quare Stallings, and I will second. Can I get roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes, with an abstention on the minutes.
Vice Mayor Quare Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, move on to new business. Item number 11. So we have a public hearing for resolution number 21026, establishing and adopting certain fees, rates, and charges for development, application processing, permits and services, and user fees for other municipal services.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. Our first report tonight involves a comprehensive user fee study that we are bringing back to you for your approval. You may recall that at the May 18th City Council meeting, the City Council was presented with an overview of a draft of this study. This was a very in-depth analysis that was conducted by the financial experts at Wilden Financial Services. Right after the May 18th meeting, the City Council had their homework. That is, you all received a copy of this cost recovery analysis booklet that we put together for you, showing the newly proposed fees along with the fees that are proposed to increase, decrease, and remain as is. The council was asked to provide feedback to us with regards to the proposed new fees, the fee increases and decreases. This cost recovery analysis that you received back then is included in the comprehensive user fee study, the final one, which is included with your agenda packet tonight. Now, a little bit about user fees. As a rule, the city uses general tax monies to provide individuals with private benefits and does not require them to pay the full cost of the services. Some common examples of these private services range from building permits to live entertainment permits to facility use permits. The purpose of this user fee study is to identify the full cost of fee-related activities and then determine the level to which fee revenue could recover these costs. You'll hear more about the purpose of user fees and cost recovery in the presentation that will be given tonight by Ms. Priti Patel, who's at the podium right now. She's from Wilden Financial. But I just want to emphasize something that you will hear in a moment. We don't recover the full cost of the service that we provide. We have always tried to keep fees as low as possible, as we are very sensitive to the income levels and financial situations that our residents face. Another reminder that this is a public hearing tonight, and staff is recommending adoption of the user fee study, which would trigger the new fee rates. And by law, increasing fees and new fees can go into effect 60 days after the council adopts them. However, we're recommending that the increasing fees and new fees take effect January 1, 2022. So with that, I will now turn it over to Ms. Patel. Hi.
Hello. Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Priti Patel, and I'm with Wilden Financial Services. I'm here to discuss what user fee study is. So what are user fees? User fees fund programs and services that provide private benefit to individuals requesting them with limited or no benefit to the community as a whole. State law requires that individual use of the service must be voluntary and fees must be reasonably relate to the services provided. So what is the user fee study? The primary goal of a user fee study is to determine the reasonable full cost of providing services. Each fee or services cost is calculated individually. First, we develop the fully burdened hourly rates for personnel. We use salary and benefit costs divided by billable hours. Then we layered on a direct and indirect overhead as applicable to the positions, department, and services provided. Up to 100% of the full cost may be recovered. The city may decide to set fees lower than the full cost. So some objectives of the user fee study were to develop a rational basis for setting fees, understand the total cost of providing services, identify subsidy amounts if applicable, identify appropriate fee adjustments that enhance fairness and equity, maintain consistency with local policy and objectives and compliance with state law, and develop an updatable, comprehensive list of fees. So we reviewed and calculated the cost of providing services and related fees charged by the Community Services and Rec Department, Building, Planning, and Public Works. There was a lot of city staff participation. We used department budgets, salary and benefit information, staffing structures, central service indirect cost allocation plan, productive billable hours, direct and indirect work hours, and time estimates to complete tasks, which we gathered from staff, and city department input, feedback, and policies. The next slide just shows a summary of the steps included. So the data analysis included department interviews, time estimates from staff, labor costs, and the cost allocation plan. And then we layered on some building costs, which included direct services, indirect services, department overhead, citywide overhead. And once we got the full cost, it was time to set the fees to determine what the full cost of the service is and then set cost recovery policy. To calculate the full cost of providing the service, we used salary and benefits divided by productive hours, which we got a salary and benefit rate. We layered on a direct and indirect overhead, which we calculated was the fully burdened hourly rate, Then we ask for staff to give us a reasonable time estimates for each fee or service provided by their department or division to get the full cost of the service. A typical fee composition includes essential service overhead, which includes city manager, finance, city clerk, all those central services, layered on a department overhead, which included the operational costs, administrative functions, and then the direct costs, which include the direct labor, which we gathered the time data from staff. So the next slide is just showing that we use fully burdened hourly rates to calculate the full cost for the fees, and to there was a lot of department crossover, so we gathered information from other departments also. So for community service and rec department, most of their fees and services are facility rental fees and other services. The fees can be set based on city policy rather than cost. And currently, the department is at a 14% cost recovery. It's generally accepted that rec and community services programs provide some public benefit to the community and are heavily subsidized. In the fee schedule, it will show you what the full cost determination is for most of those programs and how much subsidization is involved. So from the fee schedule from their department, there would be an increase to 3 fees, and then 120 fees would remain as currently set. For building, we use time-based analysis, and there was an increase to 95 fees. 8 fees would remain as currently set. 11 fees would decrease, and 15 new fees would be added. For the building permit fee program, the city uses valuation to determine the cost of permits. The current cost recovery is at 18%. Staff is suggesting a fee increase of 20%, which would bring the cost recovery to 22%. Planning also used the fully burdened hourly rates of staff and the time it takes to reasonably provide the service. There would be an increase to 22 fees. 5 fees would remain as currently set. 1 fee would change from variable to a flat amount. 1 fee would change to the actual cost of service. 20 new fees would be added, and the average fee change would be a 58% increase for the flat services, or flat fees. For engineering, we use the fully burdened hourly rates of staff and the time it takes to reasonably provide the service. There would be an increase to 9 fees. 10 fees would remain as currently set. 3 fees change from LA County fee to a flat amount. 9 new fees would be added, and the average fee increase would be at 25% for the flat fee services. Some policy considerations include general standard is individuals or groups who receive a private benefit from the service should pay 100% of the cost. In certain situations, subsidization is an effective policy tool, and that's mainly for community and recreational services to encourage participation. Also, to ensure compliance when cost is prohibited to residents and allow access to services. It is recommended that the city include an annual inflation factor, which will allow the city council by resolution to annually adjust fees based on a CPA or other factor. And does anyone have any questions?
Thank you for the presentation. I think I asked this before, John. When was the last time we did this? We raised, it was quite over some time, right?
2013 is when we raised the building permit fees, Mayor.
2013, okay.
Yeah, but just the building permit fees. We've,
Got it.
occasionally through the budget process, we've had fee increases in certain areas. But
Areas.
we've never done a comprehensive package looking at
Sure.
everything. So with the cost to provide the service, that's
Sure.
why this is such valuable information, because it's going to tell us how much it actually costs to
Right.
process, not only process the permit, but provide the service to the resident.
Absolutely.
You know, so you take everything into consideration. So, for example, what does it take to, after the residents use the facility, what does it take for our staff to get in there and clean it?
Yes.
What does it take for the administrative overhead to schedule that facility? So they looked at every single little cost and came up with the cost allocation for each type of service that we provide. And it's a private benefit. It's not something that the general public enjoys.
Right.
It's just for individual people. So.
Absolutely. All right, any questions from my
I have a
colleagues?
question.
Sure.
Dawn, did you also look at other cities, what their fees were?
Was that part of the analysis? Other cities' fees?
I think I did send a few to some of the departments that requested it, but you have to remember different cities have different staff involved, their overhead is different, and each fee, the way they label it, I don't know what it entails opposed to what you guys provide in that fee or service.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, because we did geometry with your equation. I remember that.
Yes.
A lot of math
A
involved.
lot of math. Yeah, I
Math
remember
involved
reviewing
in this
that.
process. That's why it's important. Yeah.
Thank you. No other questions? All right, so I think we need to conduct a public hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
So do I do it all in one, a public hearing and then a motion, or do the public hearing first? All right. So at this time, we will go, okay, so we heard the staff report. We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have anybody here to testimony and those in favor? No? Those opposed? All right, can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved. Second.
A motion by Lemon, second by Cuellar Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion by Lemon, second by Cuellar Stallings to read by title only and adopt resolution number 21026. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Cuellar Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to item number 12, another public hearing for resolution number 21025, General Plan Amendment number 211, a request by Alan H. Shen to change the land use designation on the general plan land use map from commercial to single-family residential for properties at 15160 Pimenta Avenue, 8851 Paseo, 8857 Paseo Street, 15348 Pimenta Avenue, and 15352 Pimenta Avenue.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. This next item involves our ongoing effort to clean up our zoning map. Wherever there are long-term land uses that have existed on properties throughout town, we always want to do what we can to match the zoning with that particular use that's going on. Much of our efforts have been to preserve and to protect residential uses that are zoned in either a commercial or industrial location throughout town. We always look to do what makes sense, and we ensure that these zone changes are compatible with the surrounding uses. So with that, I'll turn it over to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, to go over this latest zone change. John?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and council members. So this item is a request from a property owner for a general plan amendment and a zone change for properties that are located at 8851 Paseo, 8857 Paseo, 15160 Pimenta, 15348 Pimenta, and 15352 Pimenta. The properties are located west of Lakewood Boulevard to the north and south of Paseo. The request is to change the general plan land use from commercial to single-family residential and to change the zoning from commercial to single-family residential. Here's an aerial of the properties. They're outlined in red on the north and south of Paseo, and in between are a mixture of light industrial and commercial uses that will remain the same. There are 3 properties to the north of Paseo and 2 properties to the south. The applicant owns the southern parcels. We have included the 3 northern parcels so that all of the residential properties in the neighborhood will have a single-family residential zoning. Here's a look at the 3 parcels that are located to the north of Paseo, and a look at the 2 parcels to the south. And this is a look at the existing general plan land use designation, which is commercial. And this is what is proposed for the general plan land use designation, and that is single-family residential. This is the existing zoning, which is commercial. And then the proposed zoning, which is single-family residential. And that would be, again, for the 3 parcels outlined in blue north of Paseo and the 2 parcels to the south outlined in blue. These properties were zoned light manufacturing when the city adopted its zoning map in 1962. In 1989, the properties were rezoned to general commercial. The general plan amendment and zone change will bring about consistency with the actual conditions of these properties, which have been residential for about 100 years. The general plan amendment and zone change will eliminate commercial encroachment into a primarily residential neighborhood, and the general plan amendment and zone change will allow for more finance opportunities, as it is a challenge to lend money for a non-conforming residential property. We did outreach to the property owners and tenants, and also notified the neighborhood about the Planning Commission hearing and the City Council hearing this evening. And it's recommended that you read by title only and adopt Resolution 21025, approving General Plan Amendment 21-1, and introduce Ordinance 1154 related to zone change number 238. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions? Yep, go ahead.
John, I drove by, but I used to live in that area. On Lakewood Boulevard, there is still some, isn't there like still a resident living on, have a household on Lakewood Boulevard?
No, not on Lakewood Boulevard. All the residential the two parcels that we're talking about on the south. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those parcels are just contained onto Pimenta Avenue.
Okay.
So we're not addressing Lakewood Boulevard.
You're not addressing Lakewood?
No, we're not addressing any parcels on Lakewood Boulevard.
So the ones on the other side?
That's correct.
The residential streets?
Yep. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No more questions? All right, you guys, we'll go ahead and open up a public hearing for item A, which is the resolution number 21025. We'll go ahead, do we have any testimony in favor? Any opposed?
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Lemon, second by Quayre Stallings to close the public hearing. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quayre Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Move we read by title only and adopt resolution number 21025.
Second.
And we just did that. Now we move on to the ordinance part, right? That's right, so.
We closed the public hearing.
Correct.
Close the public hearing.
The motion was to adopt the ordinance.
Yes.
Or
I
adopt
move
the
we
resolution.
close the public hearing, Quayre second, and then I move the item.
Got it. I didn't hear that. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we need a roll call on the item.
That's correct. Couldn't hear you with
Councilmember-
the mask.
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quayre Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, now we're going to move on to the public hearing for item number B, ordinance 1154. We don't need a report, correct? We can just go continue with the. All right, I will go ahead and open up the public hearing. Do we have any of those in favor? Those opposed? Can I get a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved, Lemons.
Second, Quayre Stallings.
A motion by Lemons, seconded by Quayre Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemmons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quayre Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. I'll
Move we
entertain.
read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1154, and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption.
That's a motion.
Yep.
And a second.
Second?
Yes.
By Quayre Stallings. Councilmember Lemmons.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quayre Stallings.
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to item number 13, another public hearing for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program funding for fiscal year 2021 to 2022.
Lots of public hearings
Yes.
tonight, Madam Mayor. We discussed at great length street racing earlier. This next item involves a federal grant that we use for traffic enforcement, so it's extremely important about this grant. But as part of the grant requirements, we must hold a public hearing to discuss what we plan to use the funds for. So that's what we're doing tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Safety Director, Ms. Adriana Lopez, to handle the item. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Good evening once again. Since 1997, the City of Paramount has been a grand recipient of the Edward Burns Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, also known as JAG. This is a federal grant that supports state, local, and tribal law enforcement efforts to prevent or reduce crime. For JAG fiscal year 2021-22, the Bureau of Assistance allocated $25,048 to the City of Paramount. It should be noted that the federal fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th. The Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Statistics, also referred to as BJS, establishes JAG awards based on the current fiscal year. Last year, this grant we actually used to purchase a license plate recognition reader, and you probably have seen it deployed. Most of the time it's being deployed on Paramount Boulevard. The reader has been used to encourage drivers to slow down. That's the secondary purpose. The primary purpose is it's a automated license plate reader, so it holds that data. With this year's grant, we are proposing to continue to focus on traffic safety. The Sheriff's Department traffic investigators consistently determine the primary cause for most traffic collisions in Paramount are a result of speeding, reckless driving, unsafe lane changes, unsafe turning movements, and distracted driving. And unfortunately, also for driving under the influence. These traffic violations are commonly known as or referred to as primary collision factors, also known as PCF. The City of Paramount seeks to use JAG funds, JAG 2021-22 funds to focus on traffic enforcement. What we're proposing is to have traffic enforcement on major streets across the City of Paramount, once again to reduce and prevent speeding, reckless driving, unsafe traffic movements, and of course, distracted driving. The areas of operation, once again, will be on our major streets, and this is based on calls for service. That's why, once again, it's very important that our residents continue to call. It's going to be based on calls for service, public tips, traffic information, and investigative resources suggesting where these violations are occurring. The traffic enforcement deputies in Paramount will also work with our Paramount residents and neighboring law enforcement agencies to determine where these PCF traffic violations are commonly occurring. What we're proposing is to have traffic enforcement deputies deployed for 38 weeks in 6-hour shifts during morning or afternoon hours to address these issues. Once again, these hours can vary based on the calls for service and where we're looking at people are complaining that this type of activity is occurring. The grant does not require any type of local fund match. However, it does require the following, like John stated, to develop a grant project, which we're proposing to you and I've discussed, and then to conduct a public hearing, and also for us to prepare quarterly financial and progress reports. It should be noted that on August 26, 2021, the Paramount Journal published a public hearing notice at the request of the public safety personnel in accordance to the JAG requirement. So with that, it is recommended that the City Council conduct a public hearing and authorize the use of JAG fiscal year 2021-22 funds to support primary collision factors traffic enforcement operations. And I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Adriana. Do you have any questions for Adriana? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Those in favor? Do we have anybody that's opposed? If not, I'll take a motion to close the public hearing.
Move it, close the public hearing. Lemons.
Second, Quer Stallings.
So we have a motion by Lemons, second by Quer-Stalling. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. I'll take a motion.
Move we authorize the use of JAG fiscal 2022, 21-22 funds to support primary collision factors traffic enforcement operations.
Second.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Right, we're moving on to the next public hearing for fiscal year 2021 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've reached our last public hearing of the evening, and this also involves federal grant money that we receive. For years, we've been receiving grant money from HUD's CDBG and home housing programs. HUD requires us to inform the public about how we spent last year's money. This information comes in the form of what is called a CAPER, or Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report. So here to go over the CAPER is our Interim Finance Director, Ms. Clyde Alexander. Clyde?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the Council. The item before you is the fiscal year 2021 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, so-called CAPER. As a recipient of CDBG and home funds, we are required by HUD to conduct at least 2 public hearings per year. One is for 1-year action plan, and the other one is for the CAPER report, which we are doing tonight. This CAPER evaluates each year if the city has met our goals and objectives listed in our 1-year action plan and 5-year consolidated plan. The purpose of the public hearing is to seek public input for our progress. A public notice was published on Press Telegram on August 20th, and the CAPER documentation was made available to the public at City Hall and also at our website. For over 2 decades, the City of Paramount is fortunate to continue receiving the CDBG and home funds, and they have become one of the most significant sources of grants. In fiscal year 2021, the city expended about $1.1 million in CDBG and home funds combined. In addition to our annual entitlement, the city received $935,000 for CDBG CV funds to develop additional programs to address the challenges our Paramount residents faced during COVID-19 pandemic. The activities for this will continue into the 2021-2022 program year. For CDBG funds, we continue to use the resources to augment programs such as graffiti removal, code enforcement, and we also use the funding for fair housing, service, and commercial rehabilitation projects. As for our home fund allocation, we continue using it to serve our community by doing residential improvement projects. Aside from the HUD-funded services and programs, the city also used our general fund to pay for services and to support various organizations that benefit the community, which also counted as bonus on the CAPER report. For example, the city has funded the EDA evaluation and transition plan, also continue funding various groups such as children's dental clinics, pathways, and Sukasa. When combining all funds, overall, the city came close to meeting or exceeded the goals set in its 1-year action plan and 5-year consolidated plan. This progress report also helps shape the goals and objectives of future consolidated plan. With that, it is recommended that the City Council conduct a public hearing and receive and file the fiscal year 2021 CAPER. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Clyde, for the presentation. Appreciate that. Do we have any questions? My colleagues, no? All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing at this time. Do we have anybody that'd like to speak in favor? Anybody that's opposed? No, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing, please.
So close. Second.
So we have a motion by Quer-Stallings, second by Lemons. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. Okay, I'll entertain a motion, please, to receive and file the FY 2020-21 CAPER.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Lemons, second by Quer-Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. Okay, moving on to item number 15, which is Ordinance 1153.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Last year, state officials determined that our statewide election cycle will certainly be impacted by COVID. Before the election could take place, statewide redistricting boundaries needed to be redrawn. Before redistricting boundaries could be drawn, though, the U.S. Census needed to be completed. However, due to COVID, the U.S. Census count was delayed for a number of months. This in turn delayed the redistricting process, which then required the state legislature to pass a law that pushed out the statewide election. So as a result of that state legislation, our next local election has been delayed. So if you're not utterly confused about this domino effect that I just went over, here is Ms. Heidi Luce, our city clerk, to sort it all out for you and provide exact dates for you. Ms. Luce?
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Before you this evening is an ordinance that will update the city's municipal election, as John mentioned, to align with the statewide primary election. As background, and this is where the numbers come in December of 2017, as a result of the requirements of Senate Bill 415, the California Voter Participation Rights Act, the city's election date was changed from March of odd-numbered years to March of even-numbered years to coincide with the statewide primary election. Senate Bill 415 prohibited cities from holding a regular municipal election on any date other than a statewide date if doing so resulted in voter turnout at least 25% below the average voter turnout in that jurisdiction in the previous statewide general elections. The public policy behind Senate Bill 415 was to address declining voter turnout in federal, state, and municipal elections. At the time Senate Bill 415 was implemented in the city, the statewide election dates were recognized to occur in November and March of even-numbered years. And because the city did not meet the voter turnout thresholds established by Senate Bill 415, the city's election date was changed to March of even years. And the city's first election on the new cycle was held in March of 2020, just before the pandemic hit full swing. Then, all of the things we thought we knew changed. We transitioned and shifted and found new ways to do things, and so did the state legislature. To address the delay in the release of the 2020 census as a result of the pandemic, which in turn delayed the drawing of district lines, which John mentioned, Senate Bill 970, adopted by the state legislature in 2020, changed the date of the statewide primary election to the first Tuesday after the first Monday in June in non-presidential primary years, and the first Tuesday after the first Monday in March in presidential primary years. For cities like Paramount that consolidate their elections with the statewide primary, the new election dates are shown on this slide beginning in June of 2022. In 2024, it'll be March, 26 back to June, 28 March. Changes in the statewide primary election date are not uncommon. Shown on this slide is a history of the statewide primary election dates over the last 20 years. As you can see, the month of the election has changed 5 times. To remedy an oversight in Senate Bill 970, which would have left several cities without a full city council between March and June of 2022, the legislature approved Senate Bill 590 in July of this year. Senate Bill 590 extends the terms of office for offices set to expire in March or April of 2022, which includes us, for cities whose next election for that office is scheduled to be consolidated with the 2022 statewide primary. This provision allows cities with March or April 22 election dates to maintain a full city council for the time period between those 2 dates. Because these changes are driven by the state legislature, the proposed ordinance before you this evening simply changes the language of the city's current election date ordinance to specify that the city's election will be held in even years to coincide with the statewide primary elections, rather than specifying a date. Additionally, the terms of office for the 2 council members set to expire in March of 2022, Councilmember Guillen and Councilmember Lemons, will be extended to June of 2022. At this time, no other terms are affected. As for future terms of office, there are no additional changes at this time. For future elections, however, beyond 2022, at the time the election is called, the terms will be set for 4 years or to expire following the certification of election results from the related statewide primary, should the state legislature change the date again. With that, it is recommended that the City Council read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1153, and place it on the September 21st, 2021 agenda for adoption. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Heidi, do we have any questions? Not, I will go ahead and entertain a motion.
I motion for it to be recommended that City Council read by title only and waive further reading and introduce ordinance number 1153 and place it on the September 21st, 2021 agenda for adoption.
Second, Lemons.
All right, so we have a motion by Quer-Stallings, second by Lemons. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer-Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. All right, moving on to item number 16, resolution number 20028, approving the above application for outdoor equity grant program funds.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. We're applying for a really cool grant. Usually grants are for new construction projects or improvement to existing facilities. However, this grant that we're about to tell you about is for a new kind of program that we're excited about. But before we apply for the grant, we're asking for your approval of the resolution. So with that, to tell you about the grant is our Management Analyst in Community Services Department, Ms. Rebecca Bojorquez. Rebecca?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. As John mentioned, we are seeking approval to apply for a grant from the state and wanted to provide you with a background on the grant. In October 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill 209, which established the Outdoor Equity Grants Program. Through the California Parks and Recreation Office of Grants and Local Services, the Outdoor Equity Grant is truly unique. Unlike previous competitive grants, this competitive grant focuses on programming rather than capital projects. This grant seeks to increase the ability of residents in low-income, urban, and rural communities to participate in outdoor experiences at state parks and other public lands. The Outdoor Equity Grants Program has approximately $57 million in funding. The maximum grant award is $700,000, and the minimum grant award is $20,000. Similar to other grants, agencies are able to submit multiple applications, meaning that an agency can possibly receive more than $700,000 in funding. Another aspect of this grant that makes it highly desirable is that there's no matching requirement, which means that the grant can fully be funded from the state with no cost to the individual agency. This grant award would be associated with a home base, which would act as the meeting place for both enrichment activities and trips to and from state parks and local lands. This grant seeks to provide a more holistic experience to state parks and natural lands. Participants would meet at the home base for a few times to learn more about the park or land that they will be visiting. And the culmination of the enrichment activities is to visit the land to get hands-on experiences. This program is intended for children in kindergarten through 12th grade, but is also open to adults and seniors. We intend to apply for 2 separate grants, which would be at Spanny Park Learning Center and Mariposa Center as our 2 home bases, serving 2 areas of the city. The grant is due Friday, October 8th, and the application requires a resolution from the City Council approving the application as part of the grant submittal process. We are recommending that the City Council read by title only and adopt resolution number 21028. That concludes my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there any questions? No? This is actually a nice program. So am I understanding that they get to go to outside parks? Is that what they get to do? So it'd be like a field trip?
Yes.
Okay.
So the purpose is like a more, so at the home bases, they would have opportunities to learn about where they're going. So for example, if it's a wetland, they would learn more about the wetlands at the actual home base.
Okay.
And then we would plan an activity for them to actually visit a wetland to get more on-site exposure.
Okay. Does this happen like during the summer or all year round?
So we're looking to probably do it every other month. So, depending on the season, do hikes. I know David really wants to plan a trip to Yosemite, things like that. So I think it depends on the season where
That's
we would go.
great. I love this. Any questions?
So it's from kindergarten all the way up to seniors.
Yes. So the grant focuses specifically on kindergarten to 12th grade. However, they do want it to be more of an approach where seniors and family members and adults can participate.
Oh, that would be great. Okay, awesome.
All right.
Thank you, Rebecca.
If we have no more questions, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
Move the item, Lemons.
Second, Queer Stallings.
So we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Queer Stallings to read by title only and adopt resolution number 21028. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quero Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. Okay, moving on. Item number 17, we have an approval for landscaping services by Brightview Landscape Services for Drought Tolerant Median Conversion Project.
We've got 2 medians to go, Madam Mayor and Council, 2 more to go. Over the years, one by one, we've converted our landscape medians, as you know, on our major boulevards from grass to drought-tolerant landscape. In addition to the main boulevard, this year's project includes a couple of setback areas that we maintain. Once this project is complete, we will have one last meeting remaining. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, who will handle the item. Adriana?
Thank you, John.
Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, our capital improvement plan for fiscal year 22 includes $325,000 for the renovation of landscape potable water medians along Somerset Boulevard from city limit to city limit. This project came in under budget, and it also includes the medians at the intersection of Hunsaker Avenue and Merce Street, as well as the setback areas on the south side of Somerset Boulevard, which are east and west of Rancho Serona Drive. Improvements to the medians will be similar to the drought-tolerant landscaping installed on Downey Avenue, Paramount Boulevard, Alondra Boulevard, and Rosecrans Avenue. The drought-tolerant landscape replaces the median turf that died as a result of the governor's order banning the irrigation of turf on street medians unless it is done with reclaimed water. So we have a pretty cool map that we want to show you. See if I can get this going. Oh, no. Okay. Kind of stole my thunder there. All right. So what you see there on your screen, the areas that are notated in red are basically our medians that are irrigated with potable water. The areas that you see in blue, those are the medians that are irrigated with reclaimed water. And those are grasses. You see regular grasses there in those sections. So I'll now turn into the existing drought-tolerant planting that we have done already for the areas that are currently irrigated with potable water. There. So as you can see, and this is what Mr. Moreno was indicating, is that we're almost there. We've done many of our medians already, and when you see medians that are, where you see the grasses that are alive, is because we are irrigating those medians with reclaimed water. And when you see maybe areas, and I'm going to point at Lakewood Boulevard, when you see areas that are where the grasses used to be, but it's now dead, is because it is serviced with potable water and we can no longer irrigate that area. So let me go to the proposed drought-tolerant planting, which is the item before you tonight, is the, if you can help me, Steve, with the, if you can show the Hunsaker Avenue. It's a little tiny area there, that's Hunsaker and Myrrh, that we're going to be doing. Next to it, you see the Orange Avenue area right there. That item was already approved by you, and the project to convert that area to drought-tolerant planting is actually going to get started within the next month. It is a project that we did in conjunction with the school. The school was doing improvements along Zamboni, actually in Zamboni, on Zamboni School. And so part of the project included some reconfiguration of the medians and then our conversion of the drought-tolerant planting. We kind of tag that along as well. So we will be doing that project within the next month or so. That's coming. The only area that you notice there that is still sort of out there is Lakewood Boulevard. So we are just, before I go into the full section of Lakewood Boulevard, there's a little tiny section. It is located immediately north of Paramount Place. We are going to be installing some star jasmine in that area so that it can be consistent with the remaining star jasmine that is located north of that. So we will get that little section there. However, the rest of Lakewood Boulevard is something that we are considering options for. And if I can go back just a little, Lakewood Boulevard is actually, as you know, located within the city of Bellflower. We were under the impression that Bellflower was going to be doing a project on Lakewood Boulevard. In fact, the Gateway Cities had have worked with the cities of Lakewood and Bellflower on the design of Lakewood Boulevard. However, we just heard from the city of Bellflower that there isn't any funding right now for construction of any kind. And so that project is essentially dormant for the moment. So what we're looking at is the savings from this project, looking at options of what we can do with that remaining section on Lakewood Boulevard. So we will be coming back to you with that. It looks like it might be an extension of the reclaimed water line to connect north of it. And so we are looking at options, but I just wanted to kind of bring that up and let you know that that is on our radar screen, and we will be coming back, whether it's potentially at mid-year with that. All right, so let me go back now to this project. So the proposed improvements will include the removal of the existing dead turf and landscaping, installation of a drip irrigation system, and installation of drought-tolerant plants that are consistent with the planting palette that is used on previously converted medians. Brightview Landscape Services is the city's exclusive landscape maintenance contractor. They have provided us with a quote for this work in the amount of $202,511, and the city's contract with Brightview allows for the addition of extra work. In an effort to maintain consistency in the quality of landscaping and service, Brightview will be overseeing the project and making these improvements. According to the city's purchasing policy, purchases of equipment or services in excess of $25,000 needs to be approved by the city council. The installation of new landscaping is provided in our existing landscaping contract with Brightview and therefore does not require competitive bidding. So with that, it is recommended that the city council approve the landscaping services for drought-tolerant median conversion project by Brightview Landscape Services, Inc., in the amount of $202,511 with 39 cents. That concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Mayor, I have a question.
Absolutely.
So we've had these drought-tolerant mediums for several years now, and I was just wondering, has staff reviewed kind of what works and what doesn't? Because some of the medians look really beautiful that we did with the drought-tolerant, and some not so beautiful. And they have different plants in them, I've noticed. And so, you know, as we do the new ones and then hopefully can go back to the old ones that we did at some point and revisit some of the vegetation that's not working. An example for me would be, I think Downey Avenue looks beautiful. I think a lot of Alondra doesn't. They're too sparse. Some of the plants, I think it's I don't know what they're called. I don't know anything about plants. But they're kind of the gray, rubbery looking ones, and they get these long, skinny orange flowers on them. And those ones that are planted heavily with that, it seems to be sparse in between, and those spindly flowers aren't attractive, whereas I think Downey Avenue looks very lush and attractive.
Green.
So I would like to see us look at what's working and what's not, and only put in what's working moving forward, and maybe revisit and take out some of the ones that aren't. Because some of them are beautiful, some of them are not. And I see some head shaking, so I guess you've noticed that.
Thank you, Councilmember Lemons. Actually, we have been looking at that. We've been looking, let me go back. Drought-tolerant planting takes years to take and to really mature. And yes, you're right. There are areas on Alondra that could use some help. Now, having said that, however, we are looking at Downey. There are areas even on Downey Avenue where we put too much planting material and not really giving it enough space for it to grow. And so we are evaluating that. In fact, I was shaking my head because we were just doing that not too long ago. With our contractor, there is going to be some thinning out on Downey Avenue because it's preventing sometimes visibility. And so we are constantly evaluating it. But keep in mind though, with the drought tolerant planting, it is going to take some years for it to fully mature and for us to be able to really see what it can turn out to be at the end.
Yeah, I 90% agree with you. I don't know about the thinning out. I think it looks really pretty. It's not tall. I don't have any trouble seeing over it. But some of them have been there for years, and there's just nothing happening. So I think you're going to have to change some of the vegetation or fill it in a bit. I think it's been there long enough to kind of see it's not going to do anything. Kind of like everything I plant at my house. So just, I agree
Absolutely.
with you most of it. But I think, we were used to these beautiful, lush green medians, and it was quite a change when we went to the Drought Tolerant. But we have seen it can look beautiful, but there are areas it looks droughty. So, thank you.
And I'm in agreement with you, Peggy, because I have had noticed that too.
Yeah.
You know, I love Downey Avenue, but Paramount kind of looks, it needs a little updated.
Councilmember Lemon, does that mean you don't know what a jasmine is?
It smells
I have
beautiful.
lots of jasmine in here. Smells great.
You mentioned
Yes, it
jasmine. I'm
smells
like, what's a
good.
jasmine?
It smells
You know.
beautiful.
But it's very high maintenance, I would think. Yeah, because like when it's nice and trimmed, and there's a lot of it in the Garfield area, it looks beautiful, but it doesn't stay trimmed nicely for very long.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah,
A
it
lot of
looks
work.
very high maintenance.
All right, thank you, Adriana. All right, you guys, so we'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
With that, I'll move it.
All right.
I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Lemons and a second by Quera Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quera Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. All right, here we go, number 18. We have another approval for amendment to the agreement with AKM Consulting Engineers and Bucknam and Associates for services related to the Well 16 project.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The water well project, our new water well project on Garfield is crawling to the finish line. We're almost there. Light at the end of the tunnel there. Do you know this project started in 2011, so 10 years ago. That was when the initial study was done, and then the year right after that, in 2012, is when we purchased the property to start building it. So water wells, municipal water wells, do take quite a long time, and the price tag for this is nearing the $6 million mark. So as you're about to hear, much of the delay that we've had for this year was due to COVID. As with most construction projects, the pandemic caused a significant delay on parts and materials that just were not arriving. Prolonging the project has also impacted the overall cost, particularly in the areas of inspection, oversight, and engineering service. And when it comes to a project like this that involves drinking water and the public's health, these are three areas of the project that we definitely don't want to cut corners with. So we're asking for your approval tonight of amendments to the original agreements that would account for the cost overruns caused by the pandemic. So with that, I'll now turn it over to, once again, our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, who will walk you through the item. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, in May of 2020, the City Council approved agreements with AKM Consulting Engineers and Bucknam and Associates to provide construction management, inspection services, and program management, respectively, for our Water Well 16 project. In November of 2020, Amendment Number 1 to Bucknam and Associates contract was approved, adding $38,000 to the original contract amount of $60,500, given unanticipated technical reviews that were necessary for the start of the project. As indicated back in November, Bucknam and Associates is providing technical program management support to the city, which is similar to that of a city engineer for construction projects. Bucknam's experience and expertise has been incredibly valuable to the project and has helped to keep the project moving forward. AKM provides construction management and inspection services for our Water Well 16 project. Inspection during construction is critical for a water well project. It requires an inspector to be on site daily, and that has been the case for us. There are also many moving parts that require meticulous coordination and, in some cases, specialized water engineering services that need to be brought in. The contract amount for AKM services was $499,832. This was based on the schedule that construction observation was required through September 1st of 2021. However, given the delays with our construction contractor, that date has shifted to the end of November. COVID, again, played a significant role in that materials were delayed at various stages of the project. And actually, that has been the case with many of our capital improvement projects. Delays with materials has been something that we've seen in the last year. Additionally, construction management for this project requires significant resources, more than what had been anticipated. Given this, staff is recommending Amendment Number 1 to AKM's agreement to add an additional $189,785 to allow us to complete construction management and daily inspection services for this project through the end of November. Similarly, amendment number 2 in the amount of $30,000 is needed for Bucknam and Associates to continue to provide technical program management support given the additional services anticipated through the end of the project. At the May 5th, 2020 meeting, the City Council approved a contingency for this project in the amount of $638,445 to be used specifically for cost overruns. If approved, all necessary budget adjustments will be deducted from this contingency amount, and an adjustment will be made during the mid-year budget process. With that, it is recommended that the City Council approve amendment number 1 to the agreement with AKM Consulting Engineers and approve amendment number 2 to the agreement with Bucknam and Associates for continued program management. That concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions for Adriana?
My question is just for the city attorney. Do you want a separate motion for each item?
Yes, council member, if you would please.
Okay. I do have one question for you though, Adriana. I know it says on the contract not to exceed the 689. So even though it's on page 1 of the amendment, so even though we're still not fully recovered from the pandemic and stuff, so if it's not to exceed, that means that's the max we're going to pay. So what if the job is not done, but you're doing a not to exceed?
Should be done.
It
Should be done. But if it's not, I will come back to you. I highly doubt it.
Okay.
So I'll move A, approve amendment number 1 to the agreement with AKM Consulting Engineers.
I second.
All right. We have a motion and motion by Lemon, second by Quer Stallings for item number A. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Move section B, approve amendment number 2 to the agreement with Buckman and Associates for continued program management for Water Well 16.
Second.
All right. We have a motion by Lemon, second by Quer Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. Thank you, Adriana. Okay, moving on to item number 19. So we have an approval for preliminary engineering design services by Wilden Engineering for Alondra Boulevard Capacity Enhancement Project, City Project number 9136.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Transportation officials are predicting that over the next decade and a half, the traffic on Olander Boulevard will be so bad that it will receive a grade of F. Additionally, if freeway construction projects get funding and these move forward, such as the 710 and the 91, traffic delays could even get worse sooner than later. So to prepare for this inevitable outcome, Metro is actually providing us with a grant to develop plans to expand the capacity of Alondra Boulevard. This is seen as more of a proactive approach to a problem that will only get worse each year if we don't start to address this now. The item before you is to just start the preliminary design for this. We're not close to breaking ground on any type of project at this point. There's a lot of planning, engineering, and cost analysis that has to be done before we are even close to being ready for construction. So before I turn it over to our Public Works Director to handle the item, Ms. Adriana Figueroa wants to also mention there are 3 public comments that Ms. Luce will read after the report is done at your direction, Madam Mayor.
Okay.
So with that, Ms. Figueroa.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, let me go back. Oh, thank you. Alondra Boulevard from city limits to city limits is a designated truck route, and it is a major thoroughfare and goods movement as it connects with the Interstate 710, bringing goods from the ports to several areas of our region. The Environmental Impact Report, or EIR, performed for the I-710 show the anticipated mobility deficiency in this corridor by the year 2035. In fact, it projected to be operating at a level of service of F, which means the area is expected to experience considerable delays in the future. This project was also identified by the State Route 91 and Interstate 605 Technical Advisory Committees of the Gateway Cities as a mitigation project, given the need to evaluate road improvements in anticipation of increased traffic flows. Given this, Metro authorized $4.6 million in funding for design cost. That would include design engineering and funding for Edison for the design of the undergrounding of utilities, which will be necessary for the anticipated road widening, if needed. In December of 2020, the City Council approved a funding agreement with Metro for this work. As we move into the preliminary design, the proposed capacity enhancements will consider the following: roadway and intersection widening, median modifications, parkway narrowing, the undergrounding of utilities, ADA sidewalk and curb ramp improvements, green street components, which also include stormwater elements, bicycle and pedestrian factors, and actually let me stop here for a second. As it is the case with our street projects, we will follow the city's complete streets policy in that we will look at pedestrian and bicycle circulation whenever we do any type of street project. We will also look at traffic signal modifications, potential parking improvements, additional right and left turn lanes, and potential weekday peak hour travel lanes. We have received a proposal from Wilden for preliminary design services in the amount of $1.1 million, a little over $1.1 million. Metro allows for existing contracted engineering services firm to provide services. The remaining Metro funding will be allocated to the final design and also for the design from Edison for the undergrounding of the utilities. That is the bulk of it, by the way. So with that, it is recommended that the City Council approve preliminary engineering design services by Wilden Engineering for Alondra Boulevard Capacity Enhancement Project in the amount of $1,135,000 utilizing Metro funds. That concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Adriana. Do we have any questions for Adriana? Just for educational purposes, when did this study actually start, like to expand Alondra? Just as
meaning the where this came about?
Yes.
Gosh, this was probably years ago when the Gateway City was looking at the 91, the 605, and actually when the EIR was performed for the 710, it was probably some years ago.
Okay, so there's a lot of history to this. Okay. All right, do we have any questions for Adriana? No? Okay, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
So move, Madam
We have the
Mayor.
public comments.
Oh, that's right. I'm so sorry. I
problem.
had that written here. Public comment, Heidi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I will note that the 3 public comments were actually submitted on March 16th when this item was originally calendared but taken off calendar. This, all 3 commenters were informed that it was on the agenda again this evening. We haven't received any further comments, so these are the comments from the 16th. Okay. The first one is from Felipe Rojas, who is a Paramount resident. I am writing to oppose this item, proposal from Wilden Engineering to provide professional engineering design services for the Alondra Boulevard widening project. In the year 2021, we should recognize that widening a street or even a highway induces driving and increases congestion. We should not be widening any more streets while making walking and cycling harder, especially for those who reside here and rely heavily on public transit to go places. 95% of the city's residents are people of color, and in LA County, 7 in 10 people rely on public transit. This city also has no dedicated bike lanes for cyclists on any major city street, 0. This makes cyclists choose to either ride on the street with the vehicular traffic, hoping they are not hit by a careless driver, or ride on the sidewalk while risking the chance of being cited. We should invest in complete streets for all major streets that run through the city. Streets that include dedicated bus lanes for all public transit buses passing through the city, sidewalks with plenty of space for pedestrians, bus shelters on all bus stops, and dedicated bike lanes for cyclists. I am urging my council members to reject this item. Any improvements on any major street should also consider the needs of pedestrians, bus riders, cyclists. Thank you. The next comment is from Paolo Uriarte. I have been an adjacent resident, Hollydale, of Paramount ever since I was a child, and I have strong commitment to the development of a place I call home. As such, the item in question is one I strongly encourage the mayor and council to oppose on the grounds that the widening of Alondra Boulevard would not solve any transportation issue that is occurring in Los Angeles, or specifically in Paramount. Instead, Paramount should invest that $1.1 million into adding bus lanes, protected lanes, and reframing from an auto-centric essence of urban design. Thank you for your time and consideration. And the last comment is from Anahi Mendoza, who is a Paramount resident. I live on 72nd Street, right by Hunsacker, and I saw that there is a proposal to add an extra lane to Alondra Boulevard. I am not interested in doing that at the moment. I have realized that the money for this project can be utilized for other projects, but not widening the lanes. I would prefer if streets were paved. I live right across from North Long Beach, but my street also serves Paramount residents and is filled with potholes that continue to get bigger. All, if not most, of the streets around 72nd Street that are Paramount streets have recently paved roads. I approve the installation of the new access curb ramps and the construction of sidewalks to better serve our Paramount residents. If my comments regarding the widening of Alondra Boulevard are not enough to convince the City Council, at least to put this into consideration, the traffic barrier by McDonald's on Garfield and Alondra is also not in the best location. That needs to be changed. People constantly drive the wrong direction, eastbound, just to enter the McDonald's driveway. That concludes the comments, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Heidi. Adriana, can you go back to that slide that showed the things that you guys will be looking at during this project?
Certainly.
I had the list. Bicycle and pedestrian factors. So we are looking at some of those items. Okay, I just wanted to confirm. Any questions?
I don't have a question, Madam Mayor, but I would like to just comment for edification of the people who had the comments, which is part of the enhancement of the project is supposed to actually improve the functionality for pedestrians and bicycle circulation.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the project itself, and that's going to happen through things like undergrounding the power poles and eliminating steep driveways and aprons to make it more compliant. And then it also talks about green streets, which has to do with making all of those things more user friendly, you know, the sidewalks and the pedestrian right-of-ways and the bicycle circulation. And it is a problem if we don't deal with it, we're going to have gridlock on Alondra, and then that's going to become a real issue within itself, because right now it's really the only thoroughfare through the city where the trains don't block anybody anyway, and then you'll have gridlock there. So I just think it's important to mention that all of the concerns that were raised, which are very valid concerns, were taken into consideration in this project. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Lemons.
If I may, I'm sorry, I just
Yes,
wanted
please.
to say something real quick. I know the project before you is for the preliminary engineering design services. So if approved, we're going to be looking at all of those factors. I'm not going to say it is going to happen, but we have to do the analysis, and we will look at those elements to see if those can be incorporated safely. And again, I don't know the answer or the final outcome once we do that engineering design, but we will come back to you then and let you know what that outcome would be or what the recommendations would be. But you're right, Councilmember Lemons. We will be looking at all of that.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we have their input, and those are the things that we have already, said that we want considered in this project. So it is a design. It's not a project approval.
Correct. You're absolutely right.
Right, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion by Lemons and a second by Quer Starlings to approve preliminary engineering design services by Wilden Engineering for Alondra Boulevard capacity enhancement projects in the amount of 1.1 through 5, utilizing Metro funds.
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. Okay, we're moving on to item number 20, resolution number 20027, amending the city's personnel manual to establish a recruitment incentive program for new hires.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Similar to all other cities and businesses, we're having some difficulty hiring qualified people, particularly in our part-time workforce. So as a result, we're proposing some hiring incentives, including some signing bonuses for part-time employees. We're also proposing some no-cost incentives for potential full-time applicants. So we're hoping that with these changes, we'll be a little bit more competitive in the labor market. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Manager and Director of Human Resources, Mr. Andrew Villalpando, who will handle the item. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor, and members of the City Council. Yeah, as John mentioned, this is a bit of uncharted territory for the city, but it's not all that uncommon in the private sector. But nonetheless, this is good stuff. I think this is another example of how the city is using our creative resources and our best minds to try to come up with unique solutions to challenges that sometimes might be out of our control. So just to give you a little bit of background, no surprise to you, you hear it every day in the news, but nationally, employers are encountering a highly competitive job market that has basically resulted in shortage of qualified candidates for all positions. Just a stat for you, as of April 2021, a record 9.3 million jobs were unfilled nationwide as the nation starts and the economy starts to rebound from the COVID-19 pandemic. Paramount has not been immune to this. We are feeling the effects, predominantly felt among our part-time vacancies. Recruitment and talent acquisition is a very important aspect in the field of human resources and to also continue to develop our employees and our organization. Traditionally, public agencies, as you know, we rely on other types of ways to compare ourselves to the market, specifically as we analyze our benefits and salaries compared to other cities. So, although we're currently examining our salary structure for our part-time employees, we just did it for our full-time employees this past year, again, in an effort to try to remain competitive. Addressing our competitiveness through salaries isn't always, it could be problematic. It isn't always necessarily the best way when you rely solely on that. And that's mostly because salaries are dependent on available budget and may not fully commensurate with our counterparts in the private sector. So as the labor market becomes more competitive and more organizations begin to adopt different programs, you're starting to see a lot more incentive programs to try to attract talented, qualified employees. So our current policy, when assessing market competitiveness, says that we should evaluate, in addition to the salaries, we should evaluate our market competitiveness based on data from the most recent compensation information we collect from our surveys, as well as data on the city about turnover and recruitment. So as part of our ongoing efforts to evaluate our competitiveness in the market and to attract talented employees, we're recommending a series of different recruitment incentive programs to help meet the demand that we have. The recruitment incentive program will enable the city to compete in a highly competitive labor market by providing attractive incentives for new hires when the city has determined that a position will likely be more difficult to fill. A recruitment incentive program will only apply to new employees upon hiring and therefore is not subject to negotiations or meet and confer with the city's represented employees. Here I've laid out the different 5 programs. I'll go into each one in a moment, but I should note that what we're proposing here is to incorporate these and adopt these into our city policy so that they are essentially permanent. That said, as we do each year, anything with monetary benefit to it will be assessed every year during the budget adoption process. And there's a couple of there's actually one example. John already mentioned it, but I'll dive into that in a little bit. But as I get to that, just keep in mind, if at any point each year we don't have the budget to accommodate any of these programs, we wouldn't implement it that year. However, we do feel we want to recommend that to put it actually permanently in our policy because it is a tool that we can use and pull out whenever we need to, especially when we need to address our competitiveness in the market. So the first is the salary step placement. It is industry standard, both in public and private, to determine compensation for new employees depending on qualifications and experience. You'll commonly see this acronym DOQ at the top of job flyers, as long as the salary is within the salary schedule adopted each year by the City Council. A salary step placement incentive allows a city manager to place a new employee anywhere in the assigned salary range under this concept of DOQ, depending on qualifications. It does not impact the current budget, as vacant positions are already approved and salaries will not exceed the adopted salary ranges listed in the salary schedule. This amendment also reflects current practice, and so it's a matter of simply a ministerial amendment to the policy. The next program is matching vacation accrual rates. So when recruiting seasoned and highly qualified candidates, many applicants are hesitant to leave their current employer for a number of reasons. But one of those reasons most certainly is at the vacation they're already accruing with their current employer. For example, the city of Paramount, we currently accrue vacation based on years of service. So if you're a new employee, from year 1 to 5, you're going to accrue vacation at a rate of 80 hours per year. This translates to 2 weeks. So your first day in the job, you actually have 0 hours of vacation. You're accruing 2 weeks each year for your first 5 years. From years 5 to 10, you accrue at 120 hours of service, so that's 3 weeks. And then anything beyond 10 years, you accrue at 160 hours. The issue with this, when attracting really highly seasoned employees, especially long career public executives, is they may have been with their current employer for more than 10 years, accruing at the 4 week per year rate. So if they were to leave their current employer and come to the city of Paramount, let's say they're entering their 11th year of public service, they would reset at the 2 week accrual rate with Paramount. So what we want to do is offer the ability for the candidate to request that they be assigned a vacation accrual rate based on their service years on a year-to-year basis, and that would be at the discretion of the city manager. There's no fiscal impact because this simply impacts the accrual rate, and these positions are already budgeted in the annual budget. The next program pertains to our executive leave. The city currently offers 40 hours of executive leave for executive staff members consisting of the city manager, assistant city manager, department directors, and the city clerk. Executive leave is not an accrued benefit, and it may not be carried over beyond the end of the last day of each fiscal year. It is a use it or lose it benefit, meaning you do not get paid out on this. So if you leave the city, you do not get paid out on your executive leave hours. The full 40 hours are available to use as soon as an executive staff member is appointed to their position. What we're recommending would be that at the city manager's discretion, to be able to provide new executive staff with up to 20 hours of executive leave beyond their 40 hours, so total of 60, on a one-time basis, and it cannot be cashed out. And this is to offset any lapses in the lack of vacation that they don't have when they first get hired on with an employee, as an employee. And there is no fiscal impact because executive leave is not paid out. The next program is more of just well, I won't call it a cleanup item, but it's more of a feel good, and I think it's important for both attracting employees, incentivizing current employees, and reminding our employees that we do actually have a really neat benefit on the books. We currently have a telecommuting policy, so we do have the ability to work from home at the discretion of the city manager. However, and although what we're proposing here isn't necessarily only for new employees, this does apply to current employees. We felt that clearly identifying eligible uses for telecommuting, such as baby bonding, would be a good way to demonstrate to both current and new employees that we are being mindful of this very important benefit. Listing baby bonding and other eligible telecommuting uses in the city policy may incentivize potential candidates to come to Paramount and reinforce the positive benefit for our current employees. This provision does not expand or change our current policy. It does not impact the budget, and it is within the city manager's personnel authority to implement. So it's these sorts of things that we want to list and be more forthcoming with to show and demonstrate to everyone that these are the sorts of things we value. And lastly, this is the part of the uncharted territory that I was pertaining to at the beginning of the presentation. This is something that is very common in the private sector, and we're going to recommend this because we do think that this might be a creative solution for us to implement. So generally, compensation for public sector part-time employees tends to trail comparable positions in the private sector. That's nothing new. As labor market becomes more competitive, more organizations are beginning to adopt these sorts of creative incentives. Hiring bonuses can be a useful tool for employers because they represent a one-time cost that can be implemented on an as-needed basis depending on labor supply, the demand, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, the city's available budget each year. This is a real example, but currently our community services staff is currently trying to fill between 20 to 30 positions for its STAR program. STAR is, as you may know, Success Through Academics and Recreation. These are classroom-based academic programs. But the labor supply just simply can't meet our demand for teachers. Consequently, it's resulted in low enrollment. We struggle to recruit for these positions. And as I mentioned, we are experiencing low enrollment because many students are actually on the wait list. We don't have enough teachers to fill classrooms. The Public Works Department is also experiencing the same situation with its part-time maintenance aide vacancies. So staff is recommending a hiring bonus incentive program for new part-time recruits. The hiring bonus will be on a non-base salary, one-time cash payment intended to make the hiring of competitive positions a little bit more competitive with the market and to assist in securing a candidate's acceptance of the offer. To offset any negative fiscal impact to the FY22 budget, we are going to come back to you mid-year to reallocate existing funds from anticipated savings in the Human Resources Division within the Administrative Services Department and create a new line item called hiring bonuses. The amount would be $10,000, again, reallocated from existing funds from anticipated savings, and is based on the number of part-time vacancies and recruitments. The hiring incentive program will be incorporated in the city's policy, but as I mentioned, it will be reassessed each fiscal year to determine if we have available funds to offer these hiring bonuses. So here's how the program would work. Again, will be reassessed each year, and it's intended to make the hiring offer more competitive compared to the market. For eligibility, it'll only be eligible for new part-time recruits for positions that are regarded by the city manager as being difficult to fill despite extensive recruiting efforts, such as labor market shortages or aggressive growth in compensation levels for a comparable position. The bonus amounts would be determined based on the difficulty in filling the position after a prolonged and extensive recruitment effort to attract market competitive candidates. The total hiring bonus will not exceed a maximum of $500 for these part-time employees. Payment provisions include granting of a hiring bonus being at the sole discretion of the city manager, and they are payable in a lump sum after a period between 3 to 6 months of employment, and that time frame will be determined by the city manager at the time of the recruitment. And of course, that just depends on the competitiveness of the recruitment and what the labor market demonstrates. Funding sources, hiring bonus payments, if approved, are funded by the city and are subject to the availability of funds, and it'll be assessed each year to determine if we are able to provide the program. And then just some housekeeping things regarding taxes. They are included as wages, so they are reportable on the W-2 form. So with that, it's recommended that the City Council read by title only and adopt resolution number 21027, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
You guys have questions for Andrew? Okay, please go ahead.
Andrew, would this mean that they won't receive their bonus until after they pass probation?
So part-time employees aren't technically on what we consider probation. That's only a full-time thing. But for purposes of what we're trying to do here, yes. Depending on what the city manager feels at the time when we start the recruitment is an appropriate time frame to be eligible for that, between 3 to 6 months, We could theoretically go out, recruit for a position, and say you have to be employed for at least 6 months in order to receive your $200, for example, $200 hiring bonus. If they leave before 6 months, they forfeit that. So it could be anywhere between
Thanks for that clarification.
So I think that everything that you're trying to accomplish here is necessary. I do have a question regarding the incentive programs that I think are limited to the executive leave and the hiring bonus. And I think you mentioned in the beginning of the presentation that those would be looked at each year. And if it wasn't necessary or the funding wasn't there, we wouldn't do it. But I didn't see, and please correct me if I'm wrong, where that's part of the resolution. So my question would be for the city attorney, if I make that part of the motion, will that suffice, or does it have to be part of the resolution?
That would be part of the motion, Madam. Madam Lemons, we can then change the resolution to reflect that. So if you want to add that as part of it, we can change that.
Change the resolution?
Yes, yes.
Is it under funding sources,
Yeah.
number D?
Councilmember, on page 3, I don't know if this addresses the concern, but it only pertains to the hiring incentive part, the hiring bonus. Section D of the resolution under that section says that hiring bonus payments, if approved, are funded by the city and are subject to availability of funds.
And it doesn't address the executive leave section then, right?
The executive leave, it's interesting. That's an interesting question because that is part of our city policy as an entitlement for
But
that.
not the additional 20 hours.
Correct.
And that's
That
what I'm
is-
talking
that's
about.
correct.
My
Yeah.
understanding is one of the reasons for having that right now is as an incentive.
Mm.
Is that changed?
No, that is correct. It's an incentive to hire
I just
executives.
want,
Mm-hmm.
while we're in this labor market shortage, I want you guys to have every tool in the toolbox, but I wanted as part of the record that when that isn't the situation, that these things are pulled back and off the table. So that's why I want to make sure that it's part of the record, that it's not a given that's always going to be there. When it's not necessary, we don't need to put it there. It's not my understanding that that 20 hours is needed to be competitive right now with the workforce, but it's necessary as an incentive for the workforce.
It is necessary for sure for the workforce.
Yeah, for the incentive.
Right.
Is what
Regardless, though, if we're in a labor shortage or not, because when you're talking about executive positions that cannot be filled, say, for instance, in-house, you're talking about trying to attract people that have, you're trying to attract the cream of the crop. You're trying to attract the best of the best. So they're comfortable. They may be comfortable where they are, but to attract them here, you do need that incentive, regardless if there is a labor shortage. It's an incentive to get them to come to work here.
Well, because I thought it was based upon the fact that coming here, they had to wait a period of time to accrue vacation hours. So this gave them that incentive right up front, the additional
Yes.
20. They already have 40. I'm not willing to go with the 20 except as an incentive unless we see that, and there was no information presented on that's what's being offered anywhere else. When it was explained to me, it was explained that it's an incentive because it's going to take them time to accrue
Yes.
their first vacation.
That's correct.
So that's all I'm saying is, to me, that's part of the incentive program right now. I have no issue with it moving forward as long as we need it to attract somebody.
Yes.
But there's times, as you well know, where there's a labor surplus and you can't find a job to save your life.
Sure.
So if it's an incentive, those two things I would like reviewed annually to see if they're necessary to offer those things. Am I being clear?
Yes. Yeah.
So I should make that part of the motion because that
Yes,
would be my
that would be
motion.
included if, assuming that you have consensus, that would be part of the motion, which would be in that resolution added to it.
Okay, so my motion, Madam Mayor, would be I would move approval of the resolution for it to incorporate that the executive leave program where it adds the additional 20 hours. I have no problem with the existing
Mhm.
40. And the hiring bonuses be reviewed annually to see if they still need to be part of the city's
Incentive program.
There you
Incentive
go.
program.
There you go.
That's my motion, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, I understand that. All right, we have a motion. I don't have any questions, actually. I think this is something that we all need to look at in private and public sector at this time. So,
Yeah. Okay, I second.
all right. We have a motion by Lemons and a second by Claire Stallings with the changes that were requested by Councilmember Lemons. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings, Mayor Olmos.
Yes. All right, we're moving on to item 21, which is the approval and appointment of a planning commissioner. So at this time, since we do have a vacancy on the planning commission, I would like to go ahead and make an appointment to the planning commission. Her name is actually Elizabeth Batista, who will be starting, I guess it would be next month if we all approve tonight. So I would go ahead and entertain a motion to make the appointment to the planning commission with the approval of the city council to fill the vacant position for a term expiring April 2025.
Madam Mayor, just for clarification,
Sure.
if approved tonight, the next planning commission meeting, which is on September 14th, could be her first date.
Okay, so September 14th, okay. All right. Can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Quer Stallings, second by Lemons. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings,
Yes.
Mayor Olmos.
Yes. And welcome, Elizabeth, to the Planning Commission. All right, so we're moving on to environmental sustainability, no business. We have no items at this time. So with that said, we'll move on to comments by council members. And Councilmember Lemons, would you like to start?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to start off by thanking Veronica Padilla. She was recently, if I have this correct, John, if not, correct me, appointed by Speaker Rendon to serve on the SQAMD board.
Yes, ma'am. That's correct.
And she came in, she took a tour of the city of Paramount to get familiar with any air quality issues and just to get to know our city better. I found her to be very knowledgeable about the kind of issues that any city faces when they're, dealing with public health and dealing with businesses. And so thank you, Veronica, for coming. And for the public, I'd like you to know that the tour was quite extensive, and I cannot tell you how many times she commented in the bus how clean our city is. Your city's so clean. Your city's so clean. So much so that I let Adriana Figueroa know to please give a pat on the back to all of our hardworking public works people, that their hard work is definitely being noticed by the public. Also, I wanted to mention that I was part of the telephone briefing for the West Santa Ana Metro line, and the public asked this question a lot. So to inform you that according to that call, the EIR is supposed to be completed in 2022, and that they're hoping to break ground in 2023. I also wanted to thank staff for all the hard work that they did in conjunction with Celico and the Chamber of Commerce for the job fair. The mayor and I were there to welcome the vendors. I think there were about 60 of them. I saw a report later that we had about 200 job seekers show up, so great event. Thank you so much for all your hard work. Also, I recently attended a neighborhood watch meeting in my area, and as well as informing the public about what they can do to prevent crime in the area, and hearing about their public safety concerns, which again, we're parking and street racing, some of the things that we find as a regular ongoing basis. We gave them information about the Metro line, which is going to go in behind some of their homes, as well as the World Energy projects. I also wanted to congratulate staff, Mr. Johnson, for the back to school event. I thought it was phenomenal that these kids were getting so much of what they needed to help them start school. You had a huge turnout. I had the pleasure of helping to hand out some shoes, and people were very, very grateful for that. So thank you so much for coordinating with all the surrounding elected officials and your staff for putting this on. I know that you already have plans to expand it to even more materials that the kids need. So kudos to you and your department for looking out for our residents in such a genuine way in all the things that they need to proceed. And lastly, I just want to say too that the Commissioner's Barbecue, again, that your department and I'm sure others were responsible for, was really, really nice in the event of COVID and all of the changes that you had to make to help that take off in a really positive way. I hadn't met some of the new commissioners. It was great to meet them. I think that we have some wonderful new people, beautiful event. Thank you again for all of your hard work. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Absolutely. Vice Mayor?
Yeah. I attended with Mayor Olmos the adaptive PE presentation for our parents. I want to thank staff from Parks and Recreation. They did a beautiful job, and the parents were very pleased with the information they received. And also, I want to thank you, the staff, also collaborating with PUSD Board, the Paramount Unified School District School Board, and able to present the top students from Paramount West Campus, Paramount High School, and Odyssey. That was a really, I felt very honored doing that. And also, like Council Member almost said, Peggy Lemons mentioned, it was a very successful back to school night. I had a lot of fun at the Commissioner's Barbecue, and I want to thank them for their hard work. I also attended the inauguration of our new elected mayor to the city of Compton. Congratulations to her. And I attended the last few concerts. It was a lot of fun. We got to go out there and dance. The residents were having fun. We were having fun. So I believe that this will continue next year. David, it was just wonderful. I really enjoyed it, and I believe the residents enjoyed it, and my family enjoyed it. And last, John, I was wondering if I could please have an update on the homeless. I've been approached by several residents that there's a lot of panhandling going around, and also individuals camping out on resident streets, sir.
Yes, Madam Mayor, if you don't mind, would you like that right now? Absolutely, Vice Mayor Cuellar-Stallings. We are not seeing a growth in encampments, large encampments or anything like that, but definitely we are seeing an increase in some panhandling in some of our shopping centers, and an occasional tent that'll pop up. They'll be handled right away. But I'll have our Public Safety Director, Adriana Lopez, go into a couple more details about that. Adriana?
Yes, thank you, John. Good evening once again. Yes, Vice Mayor, we have noticed, and by we, I mean law enforcement, public safety, and Steve Caparellas, who serves as the city homeless liaison. In discussing during our weekly meetings, he has mentioned that we're seeing more transients coming through our city more like as a pass-by. They're not really setting up shop in our city. It could be a number of factors why they're coming through our city, but we have not seen a growth in our encampments. In addition, we have been able to place 14 people this year in shelters, which is one more than we did last year, and we're only in the beginning of the month. So we're hoping that we're going to surpass that in terms of placement. In addition, we also have been able to place people at what we refer to as the safe parking program. So those are for individuals that might be living out of their vehicles, and they get out of their vehicles during the day and maybe panhandle. So we've been successfully been able to place 4 people. So they're allowed to sleep at one of the parking lots. We have one in Compton, and then we have one in Whittier. So we're trying to address those issues. It is mostly a day activity, but like I mentioned, we haven't seen a growth in our encampments.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Just want to thank all the staff for all your hard work and all these events that we've had. I know a lot goes into it, planning, and then, taking it all apart and making a beautiful city again. But thank you all for all your hard work.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just have a couple comments really quickly. I think Vice Mayor alluded to it. I think, Dave, your team always does great things, But then when we looked at the video today about the Heritage Festival, I got to give it to Public Works because you guys take it up, take it down, pick it up, get generators going. I mean, you guys are fully involved. And I just really wanted to take the time to say, thank you to your team as well, because I saw them on Memorial Weekend, Labor Day weekend, out there with the concerts, putting things up. I mean, it was a holiday and they were out there working. So thank you to Public Works for all your guys' energy and everything that you guys do to collaborate with Parks and Rec. I think it's a great team. So appreciate both of you guys. I did want to talk a little bit, John, about the Senate Bill 9. I know that's something that I think, just to get it out there to the residents to know that this is actually a measure that would fundamentally change neighborhoods across California by replacing single-family homes with apartments, regardless of the local zoning restrictions. So this is a bill that that we're not in favor of. This will strip our city of local control over zoning laws. So we are totally opposed to this bill. And I just want to let you know that staff, we're out there, we're getting educated. We're actually going to be calling the governor's office. We were also in the La Opinion newspaper putting a statement out there that we are opposing this. So if you hear SB 9, please any questions about it. We're working hard as a city to make sure that the governor knows that we do oppose this bill. And we're going to ask him to veto it. So my last comment is I do want to share with the residents that City of Paramount will be participating in a Relay for Life. So you may have heard of Relay for Life, which is a yearly event dedicated to helping communities attack cancer. Through donated funds, time given, or awareness raised, we can team up to make a difference in the fight against cancer. Paramount will be a part of a Tri-City team with Bellflower and Norwalk on October 23rd from 9 to 10. This will take place at the Norwalk City Hall lawn, which is at 12700 Norwalk Boulevard. So again, just look out on our social media pages, Mayor's Update, our Facebook and Instagram. There'll be more information. We're asking the Paramount residents join us. I will be there just giving, fighting for cancer. So I just urge the residents to come out and join me and my colleagues. Yes. And that's all I have, John.
Great. Comments from staff? This was in your Friday memo. I'm really excited for this brochure. Again, the purpose is to rekindle what we as staff and council together jointly, along with community members, put together our first vision, mission, values. You can see the vision behind you under our logo. So again, this is just a tool for the public to see what our organization is made of, what we mean, what we stand for as an organization. So if you would like any of these to hand any of your constituents, please let us know. We'd be happy to give these to you because it really speaks volumes about who we are. The other thing was a mention by Councilmember Lemons, and that's the West Santa Ana branch. As a follow-up at the next council meeting, we will have a draft for you of our letter that we will be submitting to Metro, expressing to them our concerns. I informed you some time ago that it's still in draft form. It's about 8 or 9 pages at the time. I believe it's now up to 12, John, or something like that. It's growing. It's growing. The letter is growing. But there are concerns that we are raising. So thank you very much for your input from the council that have provided that to us. There are, as I said, a number of concerns that we are going to be expressing to them. So we'll have that at the next council meeting so you can give more input as well. And that does it from comments from staff.
All right, thank you, John. So with that said, we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And I would like to actually adjourn this meeting in honor of the 13 Marines who lost their lives in Kabul, Afghanistan. So prayers to their families and to the Marines. I know that was a big loss for them. So you guys are in our prayers. So we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting till September 21st, 2021 at 5 p.m. All right, at this time, I'd like to go ahead and call to order our successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency. Can I get a roll call of council members, please?
Councilmember Aguayo, Councilmember Guillen, Councilmember Lemons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cuera Stallings.
Here.
Mayor Olmos.
I'm here. Can I entertain a motion for the absence?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a motion by Lemons, second by Quer Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo? Oh, sorry, Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. Do we have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do I need approval for consent calendar?
So move, Lemons.
Second.
All right, we have approval by Lemons, second by Quer Stallings. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Lemons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Mayor Olmos?
Yes. Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting to October 5th at 6 p.m. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.